Shalom. As we come continuing this series throughout this winter feast of weeks, we want to talk about another important topic related to this feast. Obviously, we are in the winter feast of weeks, as many of the priests before have brought out. As chief priests went through, there is a feast of weeks in the winter season. There's a crop that grows in the winter, of which the Most High wants the first fruits. Azariah coming through showing how that's applied in the spirit with the fruits of the spirit, and Gabaria talking about this 50-day feast, how it started, Pentecost, and things of that nature. We're going to talk about the midst of the feast, the things that happen in between the feast. Let's start off in Leviticus chapter 23, Porter Shamar, and we'll start in the 9th verse.
And the Most High spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When ye be come into the land which I give unto you, and shall reap the harvest thereof, then ye shall bring a sheaf of fruits of your harvest unto the priest.
All right, so the Most High is saying, when you come into this promised land, the land is going to be plentiful, it's going to be bountiful, you're going to reap the harvest, and you're going to start to bring forth that harvest to the priest. You're going to bring the first fruits of it, and this is going to occur in the summer and the winter. There isn't just one set of crops. You don't just grow wheat, and that's it. You grow your wheat, then you grow your apples, then you grow your tomatoes, you grow your corn, carrots, all these things that grow in both the summer and the winter and all throughout the year. But there's specific times, this Feast of Weeks, as Moses is talking about Leviticus 23, where you bring your first fruits. Let's read on.
And ye shall wave the sheaf before the Most High, to be accepted for you. On the morrow after the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it.
Now, Priest Gabaria went through this as well, saying exactly when this Feast of First Fruits starts. The scriptures just tell you the morrow after the Sabbath. But what Sabbath is that? Go back and watch the class that Priest Gabaria did. You'll see that it is the Sabbath after the summer solstice. Or in this winter side, the winter solstice. That is the sign to start your Feast of Weeks in your respective season. That is the morrow or the Sabbath on which you start that feast. Let's read on.
Verse 13. And the meat offering thereof shall be 2/10 deal fine flour mingled with oil, an offering made by fire unto the Most High for a sweet savor. And the drink offering thereof shall be of wine, the 4th part of a hin. And ye shall eat neither bread, nor parched corn, nor green ears, until the selfsame day that ye have brought an offering unto your Abba. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings.
All right, Most High willing, we're going to start talking about the particulars of this feast as we start encroaching on that 50th day, Abba willing. But let's look at the count, the metric of this feast. So he says the Feast of Weeks. How do you actually number this feast? How do you actually count it? Let's read on.
And verse 15, and you shall count until from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that you bring the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Sabbaths.
So this is how you actually count your Feast of Weeks. Now, we know it's 50 days, but you don't count day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. No, you count a full 7 days. You count that first Sabbath. That's the first week of the Feast of Weeks. Then you go to the next Sabbath. That's the second week. This is how you count the Feast of Weeks. The benchmarks are each Sabbath that come in between this feast, between the first one and the last one. That is the benchmark that we use to count. Not each individual day, but these micro feasts, so to speak, in between these holy convocations. Let's read on.
Even until the morrow after the 7th Sabbath.
All right, so now after you count your 7 Sabbaths, if you were to break that down to days, that gives you 49 days. Read on.
Shall ye number 50 days?
Now you add on the 1 day. Now you're counting individual days. But all throughout the feast, you were counting not days, not individual days, but Sabbaths. You were counting the 7th day. You were counting your full revolution of weeks, and that was how you numbered the feast, not the individual days. Let's read on.
And ye shall offer a new meat offering unto the Most High.
All right, let's drop that, and if you'll get Exodus chapter 31, verse 12, Priest Azariah. So we see that once again, you don't count the Feast of Weeks by saying this is day 1, day 2, day 23, day 24. You don't do that. You say this is the first week because we just finished the first Sabbath. This is the second week. We just finished the second Sabbath. You count each individual Sabbath. These were important benchmarks throughout the feast. And why is that? Exodus chapter 31, verse 12.
And the Most High spake unto Moses, saying, Speak thou also unto the children of Israel, saying, Verily my Sabbaths ye shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that ye may know that I am the Most High, that doth sanctify you.
The Sabbaths were a important particular day. They were a sign of the covenant, of the agreement between the Most High and the children of Israel. And the Most High said, I'm sanctifying you on these days. This is why these Sabbaths were so important. Now, if we want to keep the Feast of Weeks, whether it's on the summer side or the winter side like we're in right now, we need to know how exactly to do these Sabbaths. This is not just kick your feet up and do nothing on the Feast of the Most High. We need to fully comprehend the Sabbath and all the particulars of it. So we see that it is important. This is how we number our feast. Now let's understand how to actually implement this throughout the feast. So stay tuned, especially if you're new. If this is the first time hearing about the Sabbath, you may learn something incredibly new that's different from what you've heard from all the other groups. Before we get into the main body of the class, we're going to bring up Sister Medina to bring forth the announcements for today. Mike. So once again, these Sabbaths are critical. We have been taught and fed wrong information, unfortunately. We have been taught what isn't accurate. We've been spoon-fed things from those who are Jewish, who are not of the children of Israel, who don't know our culture, who don't know our customs, and don't understand these holy days. For example, we got the fake Jews. You know, one thing they do on the Sabbath? Let me not say fake Jews, the Jewish people. You know what they do on the Sabbath? In some communities, some of the more extreme Orthodox communities, they got strings going around their houses. And they say on the Sabbath, you can't rest, you can't work. So when you walk outside, you can only take up to 30 steps. If you pass this line right here, take that 31st step, you out of order. You out of line. This is foolishness. And that's not what the Sabbath is about. Stay tuned if you do not know, and even if you think you know, so you can understand exactly what the Sabbaths of these feasts are for and how we actually implement them. Sister Medina, you can come in with the announcements.
Mic not on. Make sure it works.
Before as the announcements start to come in, forgive our technical difficulties. Satan is trying to stop the great power that's coming out, Most High willing. Possibly somebody's coming out here to learn great information about the Sabbath that's contrary to what you learned just on Facebook. But once again, as we start to announce some of the things that we have going on at the House of Wisdom, remember, throughout this feast, we are supposed to be bringing the tithe offerings of the Most High. We have the House of Wisdom is now offering all the needs for the oblations, whether that be the meat offering, the drink offering, and Abba willing soon we'll have the oil, the salt, the incense, and everything needed for the oblations of the Most High. So definitely go to Shekinah.com/tithes to actually start getting forth those tithes. You can have those shipped straight to the priest for the needs of the priest so we can continue the oblations during this feast, and also you can have that sent to yourself so that you can actually get in the oblations on the conference line, on the oblation line, and partake in those oblations. I think the situation is off. Go ahead.
I'm definitely looking forward to this class and what it's going to teach us since we're having
All
so many
praises.
issues. All praises to Allah, Abba, and Shalom family, and welcome to the 29th day of the 10th month of Maharai, a cursed wind in the constellation of Reuben. I am Holy Singer Sister Medina with the announcements. We bless the Most High, our Heavenly Abba, for another opportunity to worship Abba in spirit and in truth. It is a blessing that Abba has given his saints, those who have made a covenant with him through sacrifice, a mind to do his business. We have just completed the fourth week, or the fourth Sabbath of the winter Feast of Weeks. We at the House of Wisdom do hope that you are taking this time serious and gathering your fruit to present unto Abba. Let's be intentional, be fruitful, and multiply. Family, bringing our tithes and free will offerings unto the priesthood is mandatory. These things 100% support the priesthood in the true worship of our Heavenly Abba. Through the oblations given unto him, saints, these oblations are bringing heaven on earth. With time on our side, let's support the will of Abba and gather our wares. All praises to Abba. House of Wisdom has made procuring the oblation flour as well as the wine easily accessible. To purchase the holy oblation wine, non-alcoholic wine, and or tithe flour, and soon, Most High willing, the incense and salt, please visit the House of Wisdom website at www.shekaniah.com/tithes. Please note, it is also equally important to support the priesthood with your monetary donations in any denomination, permitting the priesthood to promote the seventh covenant, the covenant of Abba, the gospel of peace, and the consecration of the saints into the seventh covenant, the covenant of David, consecrated by our high priest, Yahushua, the Prince. To make a monetary donation, please visit the website at www.shekaniah.com/donate. We are at the tail end of Maharai. Hallelujah, saints. On so-called Monday at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the priesthood will be gathering here in Atlanta, Georgia, and in the Ruach across the globe to sound the trumpets as mandated in Numbers 10. For the entire day watch, the priesthood will worship our Heavenly Abba as we enter into the 11th month of Benaiah, the final blessed wind of this Hebraic year. Benaiah is a special month as its constellation Simeon influences the saints to offer their prayers unto the Most High to be heard. Join in, whether in person or via the conference line. Details for what I have just shared can be located in your 2021-2022 Biblical Calendrical Study Guide. But if you have not obtained one, please order one at www.shekaniah.com/calendar. We have both physical and digital copies. And as always, we offer a free digital copy of the High Holy Days and Memorial Days. Also, please be on the lookout for registration for the End Feast of the Weeks, the gathering that we'll be having here in Atlanta, Georgia. Each week, House of Wisdom offers classes to further the understanding of the Seventh Covenant and to fortify its learners in the will of our Abba. On First Day, so-called Sunday, we host the Daughters of Wisdom class at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. For those sisters currently within the covenant, join in and let's all grow together. See you in class tomorrow, Most High willing. Every so-called fourth day or Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, join in on our Bible study to learn how to live the 7 pillars of wisdom and understand practical biblical principles for living. All praises to the Most High Abba. This week for Priest Ira, for the lesson titled Hands for War. I was truly edified and encouraged. Most High willing, this upcoming fourth day, Priest Uriah will be presenting. For our non-Israelite brethren, House of Wisdom invites you to unity, the United Nations in the Tabernacles of Yahushua, which reconnects non-Israelite brethren to the Most High by way of Israel. It is understood through Scripture that salvation has been made available to all through the covenant of David by Yahushua the Prince. Please contact us. We look forward to connecting with you. For details on how to obtain access to any of these classes mentioned, please visit the House of Wisdom Facebook page or our website at www.shekaniah.com. Israelite family, True Fringe invites you to explore their website for your Hebrew apparel. Please visit at www.shekaniah.com/truefringe and look at the new winter collection. We look forward to accommodating you all. House of Wisdom also invites you to visit the website and explore the health and wellness line, Living Waters, a proprietary blend of organic minerals, as written in Ecclesiasticus 38 and 4, the Most High hath created medicines out of the earth, and he that is wise will not abhor them. Because of this, please visit the House of Wisdom Health and Wellness line for additional information and to purchase these two fantastic products, Living Waters as well as Double Onyx at www.shekaniah.com/health. And if you have any questions, comments, or House of Wisdom inquiries, please contact the correspondence team here at the House of Wisdom at houseofwisdom@shekaniah.com. As a final reminder, all links that have been shared within these announcements can be found in the description of this live video. This concludes our announcements for today. I will turn your attention back over to Priest Yardan for the main class. May the peace offerings be multiplied unto you all. Shalom.
Shalom, and all praise to the Most High. Join us as we continue to break down the meaning of the Sabbath, the purpose of it, and what we are to do for these 7 Sabbaths throughout this winter feast of weeks. Shalom. Once again, I'm Priest Yardan of the House of Wisdom, coming today with the main Sabbath class, the Sabbaths of the feast, particularly this winter feast of weeks in which we are currently in right now. I believe we're going to the 5th week of the Feast of Weeks. I'm joined today by my reader on my right, Apostle Priest Azaria, and to my left, Prince Priest Porter Shamar. Join us as we continue to talk about the Sabbaths, and hopefully you stick around. Through the spirit of wisdom, you learn something new, especially if you think the Sabbath is just about kicking your feet up and chilling and eating lettuce sandwiches. We'll see that there's more to the Sabbath. There's a greater purpose and reason for the Sabbath. Let's continue off where we left off in Exodus chapter 31. You guys should pick it up in that same verse. Start in verse 12, Priest Azaria.
And the Most High spake unto Moses, saying, Speak thou also unto the children of Israel, saying, Verily my Sabbaths ye shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that ye may know that I am the Most High that do sanctify you.
So once again, the Most High gave the Sabbaths and commanded Moses to command the people to keep the Sabbath as a sign of the covenant, part of that seal on the agreement. This is how you know you're in covenant with the Most High, by keeping these Sabbaths. These were important days, so important, the Most High is going to give some punishments to those who don't keep it. Let's read on.
Verse 14. Ye shall keep the Sabbath therefore, for it is holy unto you. Everyone that defileth it shall surely be put to death. For whosoever doeth any work therein, that soul shall be cut off from among his people.
So the Most High was not playing around with the Sabbaths, which we see in some instances. A brother was gathering sticks on the Sabbath, working, And the Most High had him put to death because these Sabbaths were very important days unto the Most High. So if they were a sign and a signet of our covenant, we have 7 Sabbaths throughout all this whole feast of 7 weeks. And there's a great punishment, a penalty for breaking them. We need to make sure we know exactly what we're doing. We cannot risk our salvation and risk our in tuneness with the Most High to just going and studying what the Jewish people do. We need to fully see exactly what the Sabbath is for and get the understanding through the spirit of wisdom. Let's read on.
Verse 15. 6 days may work be done, but in the 7th is the Sabbath of rest, holy unto the Most High. Whosoever doeth any work in the Sabbath day, he shall surely be put to death.
Now, as we start learning about our Hebrew culture, we may have grown up in Christianity for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, and then we get awakened to who the Israelites are and to our culture and our customs. And we start to see one of the first things we learn about is the Sabbath. But I'll say we learn a very, very basic understanding of the Sabbaths. This is basically all we know. All right, it's a day where no work shall be done. You rest, and that's it. What does this rest mean? What's the purpose of this rest? Why are we resting? Let's read on.
Verse 17, verse 16. Wherefore the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath, to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations, for a perpetual covenant. It is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. For in 6 days the Most High made heaven and earth, and on the 7th day he rested and was refreshed.
All right, so we start to see this. And we say, okay, the Most High made the earth in 7 days, and he rested. He was refreshed. We're going to get that, but let's corroborate this once again in Exodus chapter 20, and we'll start in the 8th verse. Priest Azaria, Exodus chapter 20, verse 8.
Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Most High thy Abba. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates.
All right, so once again, this is typically the basis, the foundation, and all we typically know about the Sabbaths. Remember the Sabbath day, keep it holy. 6 days we shall work. On the 7th day we rest. We go and take our 5-hour naps, and that's it. We don't make our maid servants work, our cattle, stranger, anybody. We don't do work. And we only, when we dive deeper, the only reason we give is this. 11. Read on.
For in 6 days the Most High made heaven and earth, sea, and all that in them is, and rested in the 7th day. Wherefore the Most High blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it.
All right, so we see the Most High rested on the 7th day of creation, or the 7th cycle of creation. He rested at that point. And we say, see, the Most High did it, we do it too, which is true. But let's understand what it means when it says the Most High rested. Let's get Genesis chapter 1, and we'll start in the first verse, Porter Shamar. Let's go to Genesis, where this creation began, so we can start to understand this rest that the Most High had.
Verse 1. In the beginning Abba created heaven and earth, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the spirit of Abba moved upon the face of the waters.
Now, Genesis 1 is deeper than we tend to think it is. We think this is a little children's story. We see the earth coming. We see the heavens, the stars. Little boy, you see what's going on? Look at this. It's a nice little movie. That's not what it is. There's something greater and deeper to us being brought out. However, now is not the class for that. We're talking about the Sabbaths. So we're going to keep a focus, a spotlight on the Sabbaths to keep the focus. Let's read on.
And the Most High said, let there be light, and there was light. And the Most High saw the light, that it was good. And Abba divided the light from the darkness. And Abba called the day light, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day.
All right, so we see the Most High is starting to create certain things on certain phases or cycles of this creation. And on the first day, the first cycle, he created the heavens, the earth, and he created light. which we've broken down several times. Now is not the place to do that. Let's jump down to the 24th verse.
And Abba said, let the earth bring forth the living creatures after his kind, cattle and creeping things, and the beast of the earth after his kind. And it was so. And Abba made the beast of the field after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And Abba saw that it was good. And Abba said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowls of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So Abba created man in his own image. In the image of Abba created he him, male and female created he them.
All right, so we see the Most High is creating an abundance of things throughout these 6 days. On the first day, he created the heavens and the earth. He started to create the waters. He started to create the dry land. He started to separate the waters. He's doing a lot of work on these 6 days. Let's jump down to verse 31.
And Abba saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the 6th day.
All right, so now we see throughout this process, as we already know, as we should be aware of, the Most High created this heavens and earth in 6 cycles. And then on the 7th, he's going to do something else. Let's go to Genesis chapter 2. I'm going to start in the first verse.
Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the 7th day, Abba ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the 7th day from all of his work which he had made. And Abba blessed the 7th day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all of his work which Abba created and made.
So the Most High now, after creating everything in 6 days, is resting. Now what does this mean, that the Most High rested? Does the Most High get tired? Does he say, ooh, I'm beat. I just create the earth. I create the waters. I'm tired. I'm breaking a sweat. I'm good. I need to take a nap. Is that what the Most High is doing? Absolutely not. The Most High does not get tired. He's not like man that gets a desk from IKEA and we put it together. Now I'm tired. I need to go and take a nap. That's not the Most High. He created the earth and everything in it. That was just a snap of a finger to the Most High. He has unlimited power. So it doesn't mean he rested. This doesn't make sense if we're saying he had to take a nap. Now, if the Most High is not taking naps, what are we supposed to do on the Sabbath? If we're supposed to use this as our directive, as our reasoning, our understanding of how to do the Sabbath, we need to understand exactly what the Most High did on this 7th day. Let's keep in mind, he created all these things. He created the earth and everything in it, and he created man in it as well. Let's drop that. Let's go to Sirach, if you will, Priest Azaria. Let's get the 36th chapter, and we'll start in the 12th verse. So we see the Most High created earth, created everything in it, the green herbs. He created the man and the woman, and on the 7th day, he rested. We're going to see exactly what this rest means, Most High willing, so that we can replicate this on our Sabbaths. Now, rest in the scriptures is used in several different contexts with several different meanings. We're going to examine, though, particularly other instances where the Most High rested throughout the scriptures, so we can see exactly what's going on in Genesis. We do see in the scriptures rest, meaning they went to sleep and they took naps. That's not what the Most High did. That's not what he's telling us to do on his Sabbaths as well when he says to rest on his Sabbaths. Sirach chapter 36, verse 12. And if Shamar, you'll get 2 Chronicles chapter 6, start on the first verse.
O Most High, have mercy upon thy people that is called by thy name, and upon Israel, whom thou hast named thy firstborn.
So now Jesus of Sirach is praying to the Most High, have mercy upon us, upon Israel. We have gone astray from our culture, and we're trying to come back. Please be merciful unto us. Read on.
Verse 13. Oh, be merciful unto Jerusalem, thy holy city.
So don't neglect Jerusalem either. Be merciful unto Jerusalem. Even though we have polluted, we have destroyed it, be merciful unto it and bring us back unto this place of peace. Read on.
The place of thy rest.
The place of thy rest. The rest of the Most High. He has a particular place where he rests. All right, now we're getting a few more steps into exactly what it means to rest, exactly what it means that the Most High rested. All right, we're starting to see he has a particular place where he rests. Let's get a little more understanding. What is this place? If we can know what the place is, we can know what you're supposed to do on that rest. We see it's Jerusalem. What specifically was in Jerusalem where the Most High rested? Let's get 2 Chronicles chapter 6, start on the first verse.
Then said Solomon, the Most High have said that he would dwell in the thick darkness. But I have built a house of inhabitation for thee, a place for thine dwelling forever. And the king turned his face and blessed the whole congregation of Israel. And all the congregation of Israel stood.
All right, now, if we know a little bit about history, we know David had wanted to build a house for the Most High in his city. The Most High said, not you, I'm going to take your son Solomon, and he's going to build a house for me on this earth. Let's read on.
And he said, blessed be the Most High of Israel, who have in his hands fulfilled that which he spake in his mouth to my father David, saying, since the day that I brought thee forth, my people out of the land of Egypt, I chose no city among all the tribes of Israel to build an house in, that my name might be there. Neither chose I any man to be a ruler over my people Israel. But I have chosen Jerusalem, that my name might be there, and have chosen David to be over my people.
So the Most High chose Jerusalem, as we mentioned in Sirach, that Jerusalem was where the Most High would rest in this city of peace. Not necessarily just a physical location, but a place where peace is given. Now let's jump down to the 41st verse. We see that Solomon started to build this house, this building in Jerusalem where the Most High is going to rest. We're getting a little closer to the target. Let's get 2 Chronicles 6 and 41.
Now therefore arise, O Most High, in thy resting place.
Arise, Most High, and go into your resting place. A specific place where you rest. Not only is it in Jerusalem, it's in a specific place in Jerusalem. And what is in that place? Read on.
And thou and the ark of thy strength.
And the ark of your strength is in the resting place. That specific place where the Most High said he was going to rest. If we know where this place is, we can start to understand what you actually do on the day of rest. So we see it's in a place in Jerusalem where the ark of the Most High's strength goes. What place is that? Let's read on.
Let thy priests, O Most High, be clothed with salvation, and let thy saints rejoice in goodness.
All right, now let's go to 1 Chronicles. We're going to go to the 22nd chapter and pick up in the 17th verse. Poor Shamar, you can go and grab that. And if Priest Zara, you'll grab Judith chapter 9. Actually, skip that. We'll go to Daniel chapter 12, verse 7. All right, so we see that there's a specific place in Jerusalem where that ark goes, and that is the place where the Most High rests. That is where the Most High rests, and that is exactly what he did on that seventh day of creation in Genesis. We'll see it's not that a place where he goes and takes naps. That's not what he's doing on that day of resting. Let's see. Yeah, let's get 1 Chronicles chapter 22. I'll pick up the 17th verse and see exactly where this place is, this place of rest for the Most High.
David also commanded all the princes of Israel to help Solomon his son, saying, is not the Most High of your Abba with you? And have he not given you rest on every side? For he hath given the inhabitants of the land into my hand, and the land is subdued before the Most High and before his people.
All right, so as we said, Solomon built the temple or built the house unto the Most High in Jerusalem. David is now giving him commandments, and Solomon was given rest, or the place of rest, to go and build it and construct it on this earth. Let's read on.
Now set your heart and your soul to seek the Most High your Abba. Arise therefore and build ye the sanctuary of the Most High Abba.
He said, Solomon, this is what you need to do. Go and build the sanctuary of the Most High. And do what with it?
To bring the ark of the covenant to the Most High, and the holy vessels of Abba, into the house that is to be built to the name of the Most High.
So there is a house or a temple to be built to the Most High, and in it there is a sanctuary. And you bring that ark of that covenant inside of that sanctuary, and that specific location is where the Most High rests. Now, anybody knows about the temple, you know exactly what was going on in that temple. What were they doing in that temple? Was it a place where everybody got cots and blankets and just took naps and had slumber parties? Was that the temple? Was that what they did? No. It was a place of business, a place of action. It was a place of sacrifice to the Most High. Let's show that in Daniel chapter 12. We can pick up in the 7th verse. Now, Daniel's a deep book. We're not going into some of the depths of Daniel. We're extracting out the points regarding the rest of the Most High so we can know what to do on these Sabbaths. Gonna read that.
And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and sware by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for a time, times and a half. When he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. And I heard, but understood not. Then said I, O my Lord, what shall be the end of these things?
So now deep prophecies and revelations were given to Daniel. And all of them he understood at that moment. And he's begging, what? I need to understand. What is this that you're saying? What am I supposed to do? Read on.
Verse 9. And he said, Go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed to the time of the end.
The angel told him, Daniel, don't worry about that. We're going to give that. The understanding is going to come out. It may not be in your time. This is sealed until the end. But this is what you're going to do. Jump down to the 13th verse. The angel is saying to Daniel, this is what you're going to do. And this is what those people in the latter days are going to do as well. Daniel chapter 12, verse 13.
But go thou thy way till the end be. Thou shalt rest.
For thou, Daniel, shalt rest like the Most High rested. What was the expressly given way that Daniel shall rest? Read on.
And stand in thy lot.
Stand in your lot was the rest. He didn't tell him go and get your blankets and take a nap because it's the Sabbath, Daniel. He said, no, do the opposite. Be awake, be vigilant, and stand in your lot, Daniel. Read on, or finish that up.
At the end of the days.
At the end of days, at the end of these prophesied times that were given to Daniel, that the saints, just like Daniel, were going to be at rest and stand in their lots. Not sleeping, not slumbering, not abstaining from cooking food, but standing in the lots. Now, what lots are these? Anybody at the House of Wisdom should be able to tell you. Poor Smart, grab 1 Chronicles 24. We'll start in the first verse. There's a specific thing you do. You had the sanctuary of the Most High, his place of rest, and what you do on the day of rest is go stand in your lot. This is specifically what you did on the day of rest. Once again, you will see in the scriptures rest where it's talking about you're sleeping or slumbering or you're relaxing, but that's not what the Most High was telling you to do. When we see the Most High rested, that's not what he was doing. He wasn't sleeping. He was doing something. He was waiting on something. He was preparing the way for the people to come and do something. Now, if we want to reciprocate the rest of the Most High, we need to stand in our lots. What lots are those? 1 Chronicles 24. We'll start in the first verse.
Now these are the divisions of the sons of Aaron. The sons of Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, Eleazar and Ithamar. But Nadab and Abihu died before their father, and had no children. Therefore Eleazar and Ithamar executed the priest's office.
All right, so we're talking about the office of the priest. Remember, we're talking about the lots, but we're also talking about the office of the priest. This is what you do on those days of rest. You gather the priests together, assemble them, and then you start getting busy. You start getting active. Not sitting back and sleeping and taking naps and just sitting in the dark house. No, you actually go and start doing something on your day of rest. Read on.
And David distributed them, both Zadok, the sons of Eleazar, and Amalek, of the sons of Ithamar, according to their offices in their service. And there was more chief men found in the sons of Eleazar than of the sons of Ithamar. And thus were they divided. Among the sons of Eleazar were the 16 chief men of the house of their fathers, and 8 among the sons of Ithamar, according to the house of their fathers. Thus were they divided by lot.
Thus, these 24 men, these 24 chiefs were divided by their lots so that they can go and stand and rest. They were to go into the sanctuary and rest with the Most High and stand in their lot so that they can rest as well. Let's read on.
One sort with another, for the governors of the sanctuary.
Governors of that same sanctuary where the Most High is resting, these priests had to be divided in their lot so that they can rest as well. They can reciprocate what the Most High is doing. The Most High on his time of rest is waiting on us to go and get busy in the lots of the Most High. We see the priests are assigned to these lots. We're going to see exactly what the priest did in these lots. Let's read on.
And the governors of the house of Abba were the sons of Eleazar and of the sons of Ithamar, and Shemaiah the son of Nathaniel the
Jump
scribe.
down to the 7th verse.
Now the first lot came forth to Jehoiarib, the second to Jedaiah, the third to Harim, the fourth to Seorim.
Now we talked about what these lots mean, that all these names carry a meaning with them. And those meanings are reflected from that lot, that dispensation of time, basically an hour or an allotted time of prayer and oblations of worship to the Most High. They all have a specific meaning and specific purpose. And how many of them are there? Jump down to the 18th verse.
The third and 20th, and to Delilah, the fourth and 20th to Maziah.
So there are 4 and 20 or 24 of these lots. It was no coincidence that there were 24 of these chief men to fill 24 of these lots. It's a full cycle, a full day. On the Sabbath, you had a full day of worship amongst all the other days, but particularly on the Sabbath. You had to stop and abstain from your own business, rest, put aside your own work, and go and give the Most High his on the day where he's waiting on you to come. The Most High is waiting on you to come, not kick back, but to get busy on these days. Finish that up. Or read the 19th verse.
These are the orderings of them in their service to come into the house of the Most High, according to their manner.
So the Sabbath in the house of the Most High, his place of rest, it was a time of service, a time of working, not a time of chilling, of chillaxing. It was a time of service, business of the Most High, of worshiping. And if we can understand that, we can start to understand all the other peripheral statutes that start to come out about the Sabbath. We start to think the Sabbath is about not cooking, or the Sabbath is about taking naps for 18 hours. We start to think that the Sabbath is about not buying and selling, when those are all peripheral things to make sure you focus on this main point of worshiping the Most High in his lots and resting from your own works and getting busy in the work of the Most High. That is what the Sabbath is all about. And if we can understand that, then we can start to understand what all those other peripheral statutes mean according to the Sabbath. Let's drop that. If you'll grab Priest Azaria, Numbers chapter 28, and we'll pick up in the first verse. This is what the priests were doing in their lots. They weren't just going in the lots and standing around not doing anything. In those lots that we see in 1 Chronicles 24, they were doing a specific thing. Once again, we need to know exactly what they were doing on that Sabbath so we can keep it. If we want to be in line with the Most High on the Feast of Weeks, we number it by the Sabbaths that fall throughout that Feast of Weeks, 7 of them. And we need to understand what to do on those Sabbaths. We see the Most High's specific place for him to rest, or where he rested, and with him resting there, he expected us to rest or stand in our lots. What do we do in those lots? Numbers chapter 28, verse 1.
The Most High spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel, and say unto them, My offering, my bread for my sacrifices made by fire, a sweet savor unto me, shall ye observe to offer unto me in their due season.
All right, so the Most High is saying there is a due season in which sacrifices made by fire must be given unto the Most High. There is a specific time and season for all of it. Let's read on.
Verse 3, And thou shalt say unto them, This is the offering made by fire, which ye shall offer unto the Most High. 2 lambs of the first year without spot, day by day, for a continual burnt offering.
All right, so one of those seasons was every single day. Every single day you had to offer a sacrifice made by fire to the Most High. That was required. Let's read on.
Verse 4, 1 lamb shalt thou offer in the morning, and the other lamb shalt thou offer at even. And a 10th part of an ephah of flour for a meat offering, mingled with a 4th part of an hin of beaten oil. It is a continual burnt offering, which was ordained in Mount Sinai for a sweet savor, a sacrifice made by fire unto the Most High. The drink offering thereof shall be the 4th part of an hin for the 1 lamb. The holy place shalt thou cause the strong wine to be poured unto the Most High for a drink offering.
All right, so this is what the priests did in their lots. And they did this on a daily basis. They took 1 lamb and offer in the morning, 1 lamb and offer in the evening, burnt that, took the meat offering, took the drink offering, and offered that to the Most High as a sweet smelling savor, a burnt offering to the Most High. They did this daily. Every single day, this had to be done and given to the Most High. So all 6 days, they had to go and get in this business. Read on.
Verse 8, The other lamb shalt thou offer at even, as the meat offering of the morning, and as the drink offering thereof, thou shalt offer it, a sacrifice made by fire, of a sweet savor unto the Most High. And on the Sabbath day, 2 lambs of the first year without spot.
All right, so now, after we see the daily sacrifice that you had to give, your burnt offerings in due season, now we come to the Sabbath of rest. On the day of rest, the Most High is now coming and telling you to do something. We always hear about prohibitions on the Sabbath. When we start to come into this walk, don't do this, don't cook, don't walk too fast, don't run and exert yourself, don't do all this. What about what do you do? What are you supposed to do on the Sabbath? I heard all this stuff of what I don't do, but what does the Most High want on his Sabbath? He just wants me to be bored out my mind? Or does he want me to do something as well? As we see, he has a place of rest, a place where he is waiting on us to get in our rest, to get in our lots and do exactly this. Read on.
And on the Sabbath day, verse 9, And on the Sabbath day, 2 lambs of the first year without spot, 2 10 dills of flour for a meat offering, mingled with oil, the drink offering thereof.
All right, so we see on the Sabbath, you offer 2 more lambs, actually, or 2 more lambs, rams, whatever the sacrifice was, to the Most High, additional to that daily offering. Read on.
Verse 10, This is the burnt offering of every Sabbath, beside the continual burnt offering and his drink offering.
Beside the daily oblation, the continual burnt offering, there was the burnt offering for the Sabbath as well. So you did the daily ones, and then you also added on the Sabbath oblations. You added in the sacrifice in your specific lot to the Most High for that Sabbath. This is what you do on the Sabbaths. This is that rest that the Most High required. That rest does not mean, once again, taking naps and going to sleep on the Sabbath. It doesn't even mean studying on the Sabbath. It means going and getting in the sacrifices on the Sabbath day. The Most High has his place of rest, the sanctuary, which was a place where you offered burnt offerings and sacrifices to the Most High. And we see Daniel was told to rest and stand in his lot, just like the priests do. The priests stand in the lots and give the sacrifices. This is the rest that the Most High required on the Sabbath. You abstain from your own works. You abstain from your own labors. And you got busy in the labors of the Most High. And this was the labor he wanted on the Sabbath, to give your sacrifices. Now, if we can understand that, we can start to understand all the other aspects of the Sabbath. That wasn't just about prohibitions and stopping you from doing things. It was to stop you from getting distracted and losing focus on the worship of the Most High. Before we get into some of the do's and don'ts of the Sabbath, portion more, if you get Isaiah chapter 66 and start in the first verse, Isaiah chapter 66 and 1, just to quell the people and who think we're talking about giving physical sacrifices, that think that earlier today we took a lamb and slit its throat and spilled out the blood. That's not exactly what it is. We still give sacrifices, but they're done in a different way. They're done spiritually in this new covenant. Let's get to Isaiah chapter 66 and 1.
Thus saith the Most High, the heavens is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. Where is the house that ye build unto me? And where is the place of my rest?
He said, this house that Solomon built, is this my place of rest? Look at this. It was a big place. Yeah, it was grand. The sanctuary was like 60 feet by 60 feet. Imagine a 60-foot ceiling. It's a grand place. When Moses said, is this my place of rest? This is nothing to me. I got the heavens. I got the thrones. This is where I want my sacrifices, up in the heavenly temple. Solomon was given the pattern of what was to be made that was in heaven, and he made a resemblance of it on earth. But it can never match up with that spiritual temple that was in heaven. So the Most High has a place of rest in heaven. We have to copy that physical example that we got and do these things spiritually. Read on.
Verse 2. And all those things have mine hands made, and all those things have been, saith the Most High. But to this man will I look, even to him that is poor and of a contrite spirit, and trembleth at my word. He that killeth an oxen is as if he slew a man.
All right, so now the Most High is saying that this is what I'm looking for. Somebody who is a broken, contrite heart, who is humble and is trying to come to that spiritual realm and give my Sabbath sacrifices. To go and rest in the lots in this new covenant, and no longer in that physical covenant. You want to take a bullock and sacrifice it to me? That's like you just killed a man and sacrificed to me. What's different between those trying to do Moses' covenant and acting like an Aztec, going and killing somebody and pushing them down the pyramid? What's the difference? The Most High is saying there is none. There's an abomination before me. Read on.
He that sacrificeth a lamb, as if he had cut off a dog's neck. He that offereth an oblation, as if a man offered swine's blood.
He that takes this physical offering, takes a lamb, or takes a goat, or takes any other animal and tries to sacrifice it to me, it's like you took an unclean animal. I don't want those sacrifices, the Most High is saying. But does that mean he does not want sacrifices? Remember, the whole purpose of the Sabbath was to give the Most High his worship through sacrificing. He's not saying sacrifices are done away with, as we've proved several times. He's saying that physical covenant is over with. The children of Israel were wicked in that covenant, acting as if they were righteous just because they gave a goat to the Most High. The Most High is trying the spirits of men. We need to offer the spiritual sacrifices in this covenant, as we've proven in several classes. You can go and watch those on YouTube. Let's read on.
He that burneth incense, as if he blessed an idol.
He that burns incense to the Most High is like, you might as well bow down to an idol. Go get a statue of white Jesus on a cross and bow down to it. If you're trying to go and build your own golden altar and go into the temple, a physical temple made with hands, and burn it to the Most High. Read on.
Yeah, they have chosen their own ways, and their souls delighteth in their abominations.
We have ended up choosing our own ways. We end up going about establishing our own things. As we're going to start to see about some of these statutes regarding the Sabbath, that we have delighted in our own things that are an abomination to the Most High. We did not submit unto what he really established before us, what he really established for us to do. We're going to drop that. Let's grab Priest Azaria, Exodus chapter 35. We're going to pick up in the first verse. Now we show that the rest of the Most High is different than what we carnally perceive rest as. The Most High doesn't have a need to sleep. He doesn't have a need to go and get some time to relax. He is a being all-powerful and greater than what we can even envision, what we can even imagine. We get tired, and we think we need time to go and relax and take a nap. The Most High is not so. His rest is completely different. His rest is him expecting us to come and give him his worship. That's his rest. He does all these works on 6 days. On the seventh day, after creating the heavens, the earth, everything needed for man to sacrifice, and then on the sixth day creating man, his rest was sitting back and expecting man to worship him. And if we want to keep this Feast of Weeks and do these 7 Sabbaths, we need to follow that example. We need to come to the Most High and give him his worship on those due allotted days. And we need to do it correctly in this new covenant. Now, with that being said, if the whole purpose of the Sabbath is to rest or to give sacrifices to the Most High, to worship the Most High, then we can understand some of these other statutes put forth and understand them and how to actually use them and what they mean. They're not a piece of oppression. They're not a piece to make us uncomfortable on the Sabbath. That's not the purpose of it. So we'll start to break down some of these things, these misconceptions that come about with wisdom, with understanding. Exodus chapter 35, verse 1.
And Moses gathered all the congregation of the children of Israel together, and said unto them, These are the words which the Most High hath commanded, that ye should do them. 6 days shall work be done, but on the 7th day it shall be to you a holy day, a Sabbath of rest.
All right, so the 7th day is a Sabbath of rest. Once again, this does not mean a day of kicking up your feet and taking a nap. This is a day of getting busy in not your own work, but the service and worship of the Most High in his allotted times, the lots in the course of David. That's what it means on that day of rest. Let's read tomorrow, Leviticus chapter 23, and we'll start in the first verse. All right, so we see, you shall not kindle fire throughout your habitations upon the Sabbath day. Let's get some understanding and see what this means. The scriptures are not just something you can read through and think you got the full understanding. It's not like a little novel where you can read through and at the end you get the full mystery. You have to piece things together to get the full understanding. What is Moses really saying? That you shall kindle no fire. Numbers chapter 28, verse 9.
And on the Sabbath day, 2 lambs of the first year without spot, and 2 10 of flour for a meat offering, mingled with oil, the drink offering thereof.
So remember, on the Sabbath, you got your lamb, you got your 2 10 of flour, you got your drink offering, and then what'd you do with them?
Verse 10, this is the burnt offering of every
This
Sabbath.
is the burnt offering of every Sabbath. How do you burn an offering with no fire? How do you burn it? You boil it? No, the Most High said you cannot boil his sacrifices. And at to boil it, you have to heat it up. You got to make some fire. So what is Moses saying? Is he contradicting himself? In one point, he's saying, you make fire, create fire. But the next step, he's saying, no, don't make fire. No, that's not what happened. It's our own misunderstanding, not having the spirit of wisdom to piece these together and get the full understanding. Fire was okay on the Sabbath. It's what you used it for that was an issue. Remember, the Sabbath is a day of worship to the Most High. And all these other statutes are stopping you from getting sidetracked by your own personal work on the Sabbath. So what's Moses saying in Exodus 35 when he says don't kindle fire? That means if you have a business, if you work in blacksmithing, or let's say you just burn crops, whatever you do, cut and burn to grow, to replenish the field, whatever it may be, don't do that on the Sabbath. Once again, if you're a blacksmith and you need to heat up a furnace to 2,000 degrees, don't be saying, "Hey, I know it's a Sabbath, but I got this gold. I need to get this. I need to get this out. I got a bunch of orders for swords or for metal armor, whatever. I need to burn up this furnace and get it going." You're getting distracted. You're going awry from what the Sabbath was about. And we go awry when we think this means no fire at all. That's not what it means. It means don't start lighting your own fires for your own personal business, for your own personal work. We can even translate that today. Shoot, we got combustion engines. That's a big fire going consistently in your engine. Now, if you're a mechanic, yeah, the Most High is saying, hey, stop from starting up those engines and start trying to work on them and put them together for your clients on the Sabbath day. That has nothing to do with my worship. But is it wrong to go and get in your car and start up that combustion engine to start a fire, to drive to the Sabbath? Absolutely not. It's all regarding the worship of the Most High. Is the Most High saying, I need you in your house on my Sabbath day to turn off all the lights, have no electricity, turn off your furnace, put out the pilot light in your oven, and just be cold and don't cook anything? Is that the Most High saying? Absolutely not. All of this is regarding the worship. If we can understand that these things are tied to the worship, that these statutes keep your mind focused on the worship, we can start to understand exactly what these Sabbaths are about, exactly what Moses was telling us. He's not telling us never light a fire on the Sabbath. He's saying don't get busy in your works that regard fire on the Sabbath. Let's get a little more understanding of this. Leviticus chapter 23, verse 1. Many people take this and start to say, so when you want to cook, right, you got to light a fire, right? So that means you can't cook on the Sabbath because you can't kindle fire. So on the Sabbath, you better cook everything beforehand, or you're going to be eating cereal and lettuce sandwiches all day. That's not the case. Is that what the Most High wanted for you? He wanted the Sabbath to just be an arduous day. He wanted to be a Sabbath, a day where you're inside the house, freezing, no lights on, and you can't even microwave a dinner for yourself to eat. Is that what the Most High wanted? Absolutely not. The scriptures say these commandments are not grievous. They're not a hard burden upon us. That's a hard burden. And when you make your kids who don't understand that go through that, they end up hating that. Man, I hate the Sabbath. They look at their watch like, damn, so-called Friday night. Damn, Sabbath. Damn, I can't watch TV. I got to do nothing. I got to sit and face the wall and do nothing all day for 24 hours. That's not what the Sabbath was about. The Sabbath was actually a festivity, a great day of coming together and having fun. Not your own type of fun, but fun with your brothers and sisters worshiping the Most High. Let's get that Leviticus chapter 23, and we'll start in the first verse.
And the Most High spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, concerning the feast of the Most High, which ye shall proclaim to be a holy convocation, even these are my feasts.
The Most High is saying to Moses, tell the children of Israel, these are my specific feast days. These are my high holy days, the days of festivities, of fun, righteous fun, godliness, righteous partying, so to speak. These feasts were not days where you were just in a somber mood every other month. These were days of festivities, of having fun, festivals, so to speak. Just like you think of festivals in the world, that's what you need to think about with the Most High, but in righteousness. What was the first feast that he mentioned? Or first festival, first festivities that the Most High mentioned? Read on.
Verse 3, 6 days shall work be done, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of rest.
He said the seventh day is the first Sabbath, the first feast, festival, festivities that I want you to come to. And you're going to do this every single week. Every week you're going to be every week for 6 days you're going to be enthralled in the woes of the world, all the concerns of the world and everything of the world. And you're going to be worn out. You're going to be beat down. I need you on the seventh day to come, gather together, forget all the cares of the world, and focus on the worship of the Most High. That is what the Sabbath was about. Not about a day of being of grievousness, of being sheltered in a house and doing absolutely nothing for 24 hours. or even studying for 24 hours. It is a day where you got busy with the rest of the Most High, which is his sacrifices. Let's read on.
A holy convocation.
And this day is also a holy convocation. So we'll start to see that all the holy convocations throughout this book, throughout these feasts, are also Sabbaths. The Sabbath is a holy convocation, and anytime it's going to mention holy convocation, those are Sabbath days. Read on.
Ye shall do no work therein. It is the Sabbath of the Most High in all your dwellings.
So once again, this is what this means. That you do no work. You don't go and do your own personal work. If you are a blacksmith or you're a farmer, you're a rancher, all that has to be put on pause on the seventh day. And you go to the temple and stand in your lots and celebrate with the priest on that Sabbath day. This is what you did. It wasn't about, once again, going and not doing any work and just sitting in your house bored. It was about going and giving the worship to the Most High. Let's read on.
Verse 4. These are the feasts of the Most High, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their
So
season.
now the Most High is going to continue on talking about the feast, the holy convocation, some of the other ones outside of the regular weekly Sabbaths. Let's read on.
In the 14th day of the first month at even is the Most High's Passover. And on this 15th day, the same month, is the feast of unleavened bread unto the Most High. 7 days ye must eat unleavened bread.
All right, so here is another feast or festivity unto the Most High, the Feast of Unleavened Bread. You have a holy convocation throughout this feast, and you come and feast before the Most High on unleavened bread, meaning you partake in his sacrifices once again. Read on, and if Priest Azariah, you'll grab Exodus chapter 12, and we'll start in the first verse.
Verse 7.
Yeah, go ahead.
Verse 7. In the first day you shall have a holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein.
All right, so now you have a holy convocation, which means what? A Sabbath on the first day of this feast of 7 days. And you shall not do any of your own servile work on that day. Read on.
But ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Most High 7 days.
Once again, this is what you did on the Sabbath. This is what the Sabbath was about. Abstain from your own work. Anybody found working on one of these holy convocations instead of convening with your brethren and giving a sacrifice was charged and worthy of death. Read on.
And the 7th day is a holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work therein.
Now on the 7th day of this feast as well is another holy convocation. So the first day you have a holy convocation at the beginning, and at the end you have a holy convocation, meaning a Sabbath. A Sabbath to start the feast and a Sabbath to end the feast. All right, now we see you give a sacrifice on that Sabbath. The Sabbath, once again, is not about hitting that snooze button on the clock. It's about going and getting in that worship, to give an offering by fire unto the Most High. In this covenant, we give these offerings spiritually. Let's see another aspect of things that you do on the Sabbath. Exodus chapter 12, and we'll start in the first verse.
The Most High spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months, shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for a house.
All right, so now we see the Most High saying in the first month, where is the Feast of Unleavened Bread, so-called, or not so-called, but Passover, on the 15th day, this feast that we were just reading about, that has 2 Sabbaths pegged to it. On that day, on the 10th day of that month, you began to prepare for it. You began to separate the lamb for it. Let's read on.
Verse 4. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. Ye shall take it out of the sheep, or from the goats. Ye shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening.
All right, so now we see, once again, they're talking about the Passover, which is always tied to the Feast of Unleavened Bread. You have this Passover, this great day, all the congregation comes together and takes their lamb and begins to kill it on that day to prepare for that Passover that night. Let's read on.
Verse 7. They shall take of the blood and strike it on the two side posts and on the upper doorposts of the houses, wherein they shall eat it. And they shall eat the flesh in the night, roast with fire.
Once again, we see on this day that is a holy convocation, meaning a Sabbath of rest. You abstain from your own work, but you still lit a fire. You roasted this sacrifice with fire. Read on.
And unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Eat not of it raw, nor sodden at all.
He said on the Sabbath day, you cannot eat it raw. You cannot go and start eating raw materials. He said on that day, burn it, light it on fire, and roast it. Read on.
Nor sodden at all with water, but roast with fire.
Once again, on the Sabbath, he said make a fire. He commanded them on the Sabbath to make a fire and to roast that sacrifice to the Most High. Read on.
His head with his legs, and with the pertinence thereof.
All right, so those with the ear, let them hear this. The peace offering of the Most High on this seventh day, on this holy convocation. Let's jump down to the 15th verse.
7 days ye shall eat unleavened bread. Even the first day ye shall put away leaven out of your houses. Whosoever eateth leavened bread from the first day unto the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. And in the first day there shall be a holy convocation. And in the 7th day there shall be a holy convocation to you. No manner of work shall be done in them.
All right, so now we see, once again, on the Feast of Weeks, you have the start of it, a Sabbath, and the end of it is a Sabbath. And on those Sabbaths, those holy convocations, absolutely no work shall be done. None of your own personal work shall be done on those days. Except, there is an exception here. There are exceptions to these rules, so to speak. We have to go and understand them through the Spirit. What is that exception? Where it talks about don't kindle fire on the Sabbath. What is the exception? Read on.
Verse 16.
No, finish that. Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Verse 16. And in the first day there shall be a holy convocation. And in the 7th day there shall be a holy convocation to you. No manner of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat, and only may be done of you.
That is what the Most High said can be done on the Sabbath. The Most High literally tells you directly, cook on the Sabbath. The Most High is not saying you can't turn on your oven, can't turn your stove, can't boil a pot of water, can't make tea. He's not saying that on the Sabbath. It's a feast, a festivity. You don't light fire for your own personal work, your own personal business. But for that which must be eaten, what must be given in the sacrifice, that may you do on the Sabbath. Most High is clearly telling you, you eat on these holy convocations and you roast it with fire. You give him his sacrifices and we eat our portions of it as well. Clearly telling you, you eat on the Sabbath. Now, we see there's an exception to that rule or that statute of don't kindle fire. It's not as simple and cut and dry as we think. And the same thing goes with this, don't work. Now, hold your horses. I know some people watching online ready to go in they bag and get their stones and toss it at my head. But hear me out. There is an exception to work on the Sabbath. Now, once again, hear me out. If Porter Shamar, you'll grab Matthew chapter 12, verse 1. There is an exception to working on the Sabbath. Some people can work on the Sabbath, but you have to have a specific job on that Sabbath. That's how you give your excuse on that Sabbath. You can't say I'm a truck driver. That's my excuse because, freight needs to get delivered. Nah, that's not acceptable. That's not acceptable for you to use that as your excuse, your exception to working on the Sabbath. What is the excuse? What is the exception to this statute of not working on the day of worship to the Most High? Or to what is the exemption that allows you to work on that day? Matthew chapter 12, verse 1.
At that time, Yahushua went on the Sabbath day through the corn, and his disciples were hungered, and began to pluck the ears of corn and eat it.
So on this time of plentifulness, just like this Feast of Weeks, that Yahushua and his disciples went and were plucking corn. They were getting this harvest ready for the Most High. They weren't doing it just for themselves. It says they hungered, but there is a loss of translation here. It's like adding a bunch of filters on the water. You're not getting the raw content because you don't understand the culture. But through the Spirit, we're starting to understand exactly what they were doing. We'll read on and see.
Verse 2. But when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto him, Behold, thy disciples do that which is not lawful to do upon the Sabbath day.
The Pharisees that were always trying to condemn the Messiah saw him and was like, we got him. Your apostles, they're doing something they can't be doing on the Sabbath. Y'all working, y'all harvesting on the Sabbath. You're putting in work on the day where you're supposed to be kicking your feet up in your lounge chairs and taking naps. Y'all are going off. Read on.
But he said unto them, Have ye not heard what David did when he was a hungered, and they that were with him, how he entered into the house of Abba, and did eat the showbread, which was not lawful for him to eat, neither for them which were with him, but only for the
The
priests.
Messiah came back and said, do you not understand? Do you not see the signs of the time? Your covenant is over. The covenant that you're espousing is over. Look at what David did. He wasn't a priest according to your order, but he was still able to go into the sanctuary, grab the showbread, and eat it as an offering to the Most High. It was only for the priests. So what was David? A priest. So what are my apostles? What are my disciples? What do you think they are? I'm a high priest. What do you think the people rolling with me are? Priest as well. Read on.
Verse 5. Or have ye not read in the law, how on the Sabbath days the priests in the temple profane the Sabbath?
The priests in the temple, quote unquote, profane the Sabbath. Why are they, quote unquote, profaning the Sabbath? Because they're working. They're getting busy. They're busting a sweat. They're moving. They're getting active on the Sabbath. And when they do that, what are they? What are they characterized as?
And are blameless.
But they're blameless. They're not at fault. You can't go and say, stone the priest. He's lifting up a sacrifice on the altar. We got to kill him. That's what you're supposed to do on the Sabbath. That is what you are supposed to do on the Sabbath. This is the one and only exemption for working on the Sabbath. Is this. When you are a priest and you're giving up the worship to the Most High. Yeah, it's laborious. It's work. But it's a labor of love. It's a beautiful labor to go on the Sabbaths and give the Most High his worship. This was the only exemption. Once again, if you are a farmer, it's not time to go and reap and harvest your crops. It's time for the priest to get everything ready for the worship of the Most High. And that's exactly what the disciples were doing. They weren't just simply starving and they said, that's the Sabbath, let me go and eat. That's not what they were doing. They were actually getting the meat offering for the oblations unto the Most High, for the worship of the Most High. They were priests and they were blameless in doing work on the Sabbath. This is the only exemption to doing work on the Sabbath. The priests do the work and all the people come and partake, rest, abstain from their own work, and get busy with the priest and giving the sacrifice to the Most High. Let's drop that and Priest Azar, if you grab Nehemiah chapter 10, verse 31. Yeah, you can go and read it. Go and read the next verse.
Verse 6. But I say unto you that in this place is one greater than the temple. Verse 7. But if ye had known what this meaneth, I would have mercy and not sacrifice. Ye would not have condemned the guiltless.
All right, go and break it down, Shamar. So you want to bring it out? Nah, it's all good. So we see the Messiah saying that you are the temple. You're greater than that little temple where you're trying to sit back and give the Sabbath. You are the temple. My disciples are the temple. They have the temple within them. and they're about to give up the sacrifices on this Sabbath, seventh day, this day of rest. You trying to tell them they need to get and walk into that physical temple? The Most High does not reside and dwell in the tabernacles made by man. He dwells in that spiritual place, and they're about to get in those spiritual offerings. And if you understood, if you could see the signs of the time, you wouldn't have blamed the blameless. We're blameless priests. You wouldn't have blamed us if you understood what was going on, but you didn't. The Pharisees did not. And unfortunately, a lot of us are in that position today. You see people, quote unquote, working on the Sabbath. You see the people, the priests of the house of wisdom, working on the Sabbath, working tirelessly, endlessly, all day. Some people look at that like something wrong with them. They supposed to be chilling. We supposed to have beds and cots out all in the school and take naps on the Sabbath. No, the priests get busy and work on the Sabbath to give the Most High his oblations. The people abstain from their own personal works and start focusing on the work of the Most High. They come and support the priest. They come and give their sacrifices on that seventh day. All right, so let's drop that. Let's grab that Nehemiah chapter 10. Start in the 31st verse, priest Azariah. Now, another thing we see is buying and selling. If Portia, you'll grab 2 Kings chapter 22 and start in the first verse. We see that buying and selling was something that we also shouldn't be doing on the Sabbath, according to Nehemiah. Let's get that Nehemiah chapter 10, start in the 31st verse.
And if the people of the land bring ware or any victuals on the Sabbath day to sell, that we would not buy it of them on the Sabbath.
So Nehemiah, who is coming to reconstruct our culture that was destroyed, as he's building it back up with Ezra, is saying this is one of the things we're agreeing not to do. We're agreeing not to profane the Sabbath days like we did before. Now, if anybody comes, if any people of the land, any strangers, or even Israelites come and bring wares or victuals or things to sell on the Sabbath, we're not going to buy them. Read on.
Or on the holy day, and that we would leave the seventh year in the exaction of every debt.
So what he's actually talking about is work. He's still talking about work. Imagine this is somebody's business. Somebody sells whatever, flip-flops. He's trying to sell them on the Sabbath. What does flip-flops have to do with the worship of the Most High? Why are you buying and selling things that have nothing to do with the worship of the Most High? You do not do that. You don't go and engage in your own work. And a lot of us are into that today. A lot of business today revolves around sales and finances. Abstain from that on the Sabbath. If you are a banker and you do loans and mortgages, hey, abstain from that on the Sabbath. If you have a business and you sell products, if you are into real estate and you sell houses, you might have a big juicy sale ready on the Sabbath. I got $1 million mansion and there's a buyer ready to pay cash. But you can only do a Friday night. I'm going to have to pass on that one. Can't buy or sell and do my own work on the Sabbath. We can't act like Saul, who thought he could do his own thing and just flip it for the Most High and think it was right. You can't go and be disobedient and think that's going to be righteous. You can't be like a real estate agent saying, I'm going to just buy this and give half to the Most High. That's righteous on the Sabbath. No. You're doing your own work, and then you're trying to put a righteous spin on it. You can't do that. If you are buying and selling, if your business is buying and selling, abstain from that on the Sabbath. Abstain, once again, from your own work on the Sabbath. Now, once again, there's an exception. Because, once again, all this revolves around the worship of the Most High. He's not straight up saying, don't buy stuff, don't sell stuff on the Sabbath, flat out, and that's it. We have to understand the whole concept of the Sabbath is to worship the Most High. Stop doing your own stuff and worship the Most High. So, if buying and selling has to do with the worship of the Most High, you can do that. Let's get that 2 Kings chapter 22 and 1. This Nehemiah is not talking about no financial transactions can be done on the Sabbath. He's saying for people's business that have absolutely nothing to do with the worship of the Most High, we don't do that on the Sabbath. But once again, the priests work on the Sabbath and are blameless. They quote unquote profane the Sabbath and are blameless. Let's see an example of this in 2 Kings 22. We'll start in the first verse.
Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 31 years in Jerusalem. and his mother's name was Jediah, and the daughter of Adiah of Buzkoth. And he did that which was right in the sight of the Most High.
All right, now Josiah did the things that were righteous in the sight of the Most High. He was one of the 3 kings that was not found defective. Everything he did was on point, was righteous in the sight of the Most High. Let's see what he did. Read on.
And he walked in all the ways of his father David, and turned not aside to the right hand or to the left. And it came to pass in the 18th year of King Josiah, that the king sent Shaphan, the son of Azaliah, the son of Meshullam, the scribe, to the house of the Most High, saying, Go up to Hilkiah, the high priest, that he may sum the silver which is brought into the house of the Most High, which the keepers of the door have gathered of the people.
So he said, go to the high priest. Once again, this is a priest. He has exemptions on the Sabbath day to do his business, because his business is the business of the Most High. His business is the work of the Heavenly Father. And he said, go and have him sum up the money that was gathered when the people came into the temple. And what day did the people come into the temple? On the Sabbath, on the 7th day, on the feast days, the holy convocations. They come and gather inside the temple. And on that day, there were financial transactions. There were people giving money to the priests so that they could do the worship of the Most High. Once again, if we understand the real essence of the Sabbath, we can start to understand all these other peripheral statutes as well. The purpose of the Sabbath was not to not buy and sell. The purpose of the Sabbath was to worship the Most High. And if the priests need funds to go and build the temple so that they can worship the Most High, that's lawful to do on the Sabbath. What's unlawful is for somebody to go and say, hey, I buy and sell cars, I flip them, this is my own personal business on the side. Now, if Hilkiah had a business where he was selling chariots and people were coming and buying chariots on the Sabbath, that would have been off. That priest would have been going off. But because it was all for the work and worship of the Most High, it all lines up and is done in order with the service of the Most High. We cannot get caught up in thinking the Sabbath is a day of just kicking our feet up. Then we start to lose the essence of the Sabbath, and we start to have misunderstandings on the things that are to be done on the Sabbath. It's all about the worship of the Most High, and you can do that in some of these avenues and some of these assets. Let's read on.
Verse 5. And let them deliver it into the hands of the doers of the work, that have the oversight of the house of the Most High, and let them give it to the doers of the work which is in the house of the Most High, to repair the breaches of the house.
This is lawful to do on the Sabbath. It's lawful to go and repair these breaches, to work on the Sabbath, if your work has to do with the worship of the Most High. If your work furthers the worship of the Most High, it's lawful, it's good, you can pass. If it's not, if it's just your own personal labors, that doesn't fly. You are worthy of death if you're doing your own personal labors on that 7th day, that Sabbath. Now, thankfully, we have the 7th covenant. We can go and atone. We can be forgiven because we've all done things on the Sabbath we shouldn't be doing. Thankfully, we have the atonement. But once we know and once we learn, we have to go and start applying that. We can drop that and go to Priest Azariah, John chapter 2, verse 13. Let's look at the flip side of this. The priest can go and receive money, do financial transactions on the Sabbath, not necessarily for personal things, but for the work of the Most High. That's why the priests have to be upstanding. They can't be abusing these exemptions that the Most High gave. They cannot abuse the exemption to work on the Sabbath and think they can go and start doing push-ups on the Sabbath. I get my swallow on Sabbath because the Most High said I'm a priest, I can work. Not the case. If the Most High said the priest can do financial transactions on the Sabbath for the work of the house of the Most High, they shouldn't be perverting that and doing that for their own personal business or their own personal gain. It's all for the house of the Most High. It's all for the worship of the Most High, for his rest. Let's get an example of that. John chapter 2, verse 13.
And the Jews' Passover was at hand.
So the Passover was at hand, which is a holy convocation, a Sabbath day. Read on.
And Yahushua went up to Jerusalem and found in the temple those that sold oxen and sheep and doves and the changers of money sitting.
So now you go the Messiah goes to the temple, the place of rest for the Most High, or place that was for rest for his Sabbath, and finds people trying to make a quick buck. They selling the things that people needed for the Sabbath. They abusing them. They're money changers. They're trying to exchange the money and flip their money and make a profit instead of aiding the house of the Most High. These priests and these people started perverting the exemptions that the Most High gave. They were trying to fill their own pockets instead of build up the house of the Most High. Read on.
Verse 15. When he had made a scourge of small cords, he drove.
So hold on. What the Messiah do? He said, brother, come and give me a hug. I love you, brother. Come and let's walk in the meadow. No, he said he made a scourge of small cords. This is a whip. The Messiah went and started cracking the whip on these brothers. Read on.
And when he had made a scourge of small cords, he drove them all out of the temple.
He drove these money changers, these greedy priests and Pharisees and people working in the temple. He got a whip and started whipping them out of the temple. Get them out. They are abusing this system that the Most High put forth. Read on.
And the sheep and the oxen, and poured out the changers' money.
Dumped their money straight into the waters and let it flow away. He didn't even care about the money. He had to get this foolishness out of the place of rest of the Most High on his day of rest. Read on.
And overthrew the tables.
Now, this is the image of the Messiah I want to see. We always see, the little white Jesus looking with his finger pointing and touching the Most High's hand. I want to see this image of the Messiah. Him flipping over tables and whipping people. Whipping the wicked and getting them out of the temple. That's what I want to see. Read on.
Verse 16. It said unto them that sold doves, take these things hence. Make not my Father's house a house of merchandise.
He said, get these things out of here. You guys are doing nothing but trying to fill your own pockets. You are abusing that system. It'd been one thing if you were trying to build up the house of the Most High, or if you're trying to develop the house of the Most High, or develop his worship, or increase that. But you're trying to line your own pocket so you can go home and buy your mansion. That's what you're trying to do with this money. That's unacceptable. Get this out. This is not a house of merchandise. This is a house of worship. And everything you do needs to be regarding the worship of the Most High on that Sabbath day. All right, let's drop that and let's go to Exodus chapter 34. We'll pick it up in the 22nd verse. So once again, we had to go through all this so we can understand exactly what you do and what you don't do on the Sabbath and what the Sabbath is about, because we're on the Feast of Weeks, which is a feast of 7 Sabbaths, plus the one at the beginning and the one at the end. So we number our feast by the Sabbaths, not by the individual days. Once again, it's not day 1, day 2, day 3. It's Sabbath 1, Sabbath 2, Sabbath 3, all the way up to 7 Sabbaths. If this was how we do the Feast of Weeks, we need to understand what you do on those Sabbaths. It's not a day where you sit back and kick your feet up and drink, water, cold water, don't gain juice, don't grit anything, don't cook food, don't do anything. That's not what it's about. It's about the worship of the Most High. He's saying on these 7 days, you always come throughout this Feast of Weeks and worship the Most High. So let's get a little more understanding in Exodus chapter 34, verse 22.
And thou shalt observe the Feast of Weeks, of the first fruits of wheat harvest, and of the Feast of Ingathering at the year's end. Thrice in a year shall all your men children appear before the Most High Abba, the Abba of Israel.
So the Most High is saying we have to observe the Feast of Weeks, which is the Feast of First Fruits, the wheat harvest, the first day at the beginning, and the 50th day ingathering at the end. And then we come to these 3 different occasions in the year, in that season. First being unleavened bread, second being the first day of this feast, and thirdly being that 50th day of the feast, after that 7th Sabbath. But you also have to reference all those Sabbaths in between that first and 50th day. All right, let's read on.
Verse 24. For I will cast out the nations before thee, and enlarge thy borders. Neither shall any man desire thy land, when thou shalt go up to appear before the Most High Abba thrice in a year.
If we do this, if we reverence these Sabbaths, the Most High will increase us, increase our borders, and have no enemy that can prosper against us if we operate in this system righteously, if we reverence these Sabbaths. Jump up now to the 21st verse.
6 days shalt thou work, but on the 7th day thou shalt rest.
Once again, he's telling us in these feasts, don't neglect that 7th day. In these feasts, yeah, the first day is a great holy convocation. The 50th day is a great holy convocation. But on those Sabbath days, don't neglect them. Don't neglect the ones throughout the year either, but particularly during this feast. 6 days you shall work throughout this feast. 6 days you shall begin to harvest in that feast of harvest. And on the 7th day you shall rest from your harvest. Finish that up.
In earning time and in harvest thou shalt rest.
He said in earing time and in harvest. When the crops are just sprouting and you have nothing to do, all right, still rest. Now, you have to be equitable, even when the harvest is plenteous and there's an abundance. And you're tempted now to work on the Sabbath because you see, man, my crop's about to spoil, they're about to go bad. I need to go and get them before they, I got to do this on the Sabbath. Most High is saying, no, even in that time of harvest, you better rest on that 7th day. Throughout that Feast of Weeks, you need to rest on those 7 days. Those 7 days, or those 7 Sabbaths, we need to rest on them and do what the Most High requires of us. Let's drop that and go to Exodus chapter 16. We'll see an example of that. Priest Azari, you'll grab that. Exodus chapter 16 and verse 1. And you can actually start in the first verse.
And they took their journey from Elim, and all the congregation of the children of Israel came unto the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, the 15th day of the 2nd month after their departing out of the land of Egypt. The whole congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. The children of Israel said unto them, Would to Abba we had died by the hand of the Most High in the land of Egypt. We sat by the flesh pots, and when we did eat bread to the full, ye have brought us forth into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger.
We see how hard-headed Israel was, and that's how some of our people are today. Israel saying, I wish the Most High just killed me in Egypt. At least I would have had a full belly. Now you trying to take me to the wilderness, and I'm about to die starving. I'm not cool with that. I need to go back to Egypt. Bring him back to Egypt. How many of us are saying that today? They love the ways of Egypt or spiritual Egypt. Places of today. They're not looking at the custom, the culture the Most High is establishing with us. They're looking at the ways of the Egyptians and following after the ways of the Egyptians. Let's read on.
Verse 4. Then said the Most High unto Moses, Behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you. People shall go out and gather a certain rate every day, that I may prove them whether they will walk in my law or no.
So now the Most High is saying, okay, you hungry? I'll give you some food. We'll see if you keep this law, keep my statute, keep my commandments, keep my covenant or not. Spoiler alert, they didn't. But going back to the point, they were hungry, and the Most High said, I'm going to rain down bread for you then. I'm going to give you bread from heaven. Let's read on.
Verse 5. And it shall come to pass that on the 6th day they shall prepare that which they bring in, and it shall be twice as much as they gather daily.
So now on the 6th day, there's going to be in a great abundance, just like it said in the commandments in Exodus 34. In earing time and in harvest thou shalt rest on the 7th day. Whether it's a time of dearth or there's not a great amount, the crops are still growing, or it's a time of plenteousness of a bountiful harvest, you're still going to rest on that 7th day. As a commandment requirement of the Most High. Let's read on.
Verse 6. And Moses and Aaron said unto all the children of Israel at even, And ye shall know that the Most High hath brought you out of the land of Egypt. And in the morning, then ye shall see the glory of the Most High, that he heareth your murmurings against the Most High. And what are we that ye murmur against us? And Moses said, This shall be, the Most High shall give you in the evening flesh to eat, and in the morning bread to the full, that the Most High heareth your murmurings, which ye murmur against him. And what are we? Your murmurings are against us, but against the Most High.
So he's saying you are some hard-headed people. You're not murmuring against Moses or Aaron. You're murmuring against the Most High himself, or murmuring against his anointed, his chosen people. But nonetheless, the Most High is going to prove you and see if you'll keep his Sabbath or not. He's going to give you meat to the full, flesh and bread from heaven, manna. And you're going to be full. You're not going to hunger ever again. We'll see what you do on the Sabbath. Are you going to keep the Sabbath still or no? Let's read on.
Verse 9. Moses spake unto Aaron, say unto all the congregation of the children of Israel, come near before the Most High, for he hath heard your murmurings. And it came to pass, as Aaron spake unto the whole congregation of the children of Israel, that they looked toward the wilderness, and behold, the glory of the Most High appeared in the cloud. The Most High spake unto Moses, saying, I have heard the murmurings of the children of Israel. Speak unto them, saying, at even ye shall eat flesh, and in the morning ye shall be filled with bread. And ye shall know that I am the Most High your Abba. And it came to pass that at even quails came up, covered the camp, and in the morning dew lay round about the host. When the dew that lay was gone up, behold, upon the face of the wilderness there lay a small round thing, as small as the hoarfrost on the ground.
All right, so now the Most High is bringing forth the quails in the evening for the children of Israel to eat and sacrifice to him. And now he's raining down manna from heaven. The dew came and the manna rose up, and they were able to take it and offer it to the Most High as a meat offering and the flesh of the sacrifice unto the Most High. And it was a time of plenteousness. They didn't have to labor for it. They didn't have to till the ground. They didn't have to go and hunt. The Most High provided that food for them that they ate, and they offered to the Most High. But he said one thing, let's see if they keep the Sabbath. Let's see what they do. Remember, in earing time and harvest, you keep the Sabbath. I don't care how plentiful or not plentiful it is out there. You keep that Sabbath. Read on.
Verse 15. When the children of Israel saw it, they said one to another, it is manna. For they wist not what it was. And Moses said unto them, this is the bread which the Most High hath given you to eat. This is the thing which the Most High had commanded. Gather of it every man according to his eating, an omer for every man, according to the number of your persons. Take ye every man for them which are in his tents.
All right, so once again, they didn't have to work for it. They didn't have to till the ground, plant a seed, wait for the grain to sprout up, harvest it, mill it, do all that kind of stuff to make flour and bread. They didn't have to do that. They had to wait on the Most High to raise that manna up, harvest it. That was the only work they had to do, was harvest it and prepare it. That was it. Let's read on.
Verse 17. The children of Israel did so, and gathered, some more, some less. When they did meet it with an omer, he that gathered much had nothing over, and he that gathered little had no lack. They gathered every man according to his eating.
So there was no lacking, there was no excess, there was the perfect and right amount. Now this sounds beautiful. I'll tell you, the children of Israel, that was scary. I just had just enough. What's going to happen tomorrow? Is the Most High going to come through? I only had just enough. I don't have any extra. I don't know what's going to happen. Let's read on.
Verse 19. And Moses said, let no man leave of it till the morning. Notwithstanding, they hearkened not unto Moses, but some of them left of it unto the morning. And it bred worms and stank, and Moses was wroth with them.
So now we see one aspect of them already not trusting the Most High. Moses told them, Most High is going to provide for you. As long as you are in this wilderness, he is going to provide for you. Don't leave any in the morning. Trust the Most High. He will come through tomorrow and bring you more. Children of Israel said, I barely had enough for today. I'm full, but I don't have any extra left. I'm going to try to save some for tomorrow. Make sure I got some just in case. And the Most High cursed it and smote it, and it got plagued, and it had worms, and it got moldy. They did not trust in the Most High. And it grieved Moses, of course. These hard-headed people will not listen. Read on.
Verse 21. They gathered it every morning, every man according to his eating. When the sun waxed hot, it melted. And it came to pass that on the 6th day they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omens for 1 man. And all the rulers of the congregation came and told Moses.
So now they said, whoa, on the 6th day, I got more. I got double of what I got these other 5 days. I got double what I got. So on point. All right, so I'm in a bountiful time right now on the 6th day. This preparation day, preparing for this Sabbath. I'm in that harvest time right now. Read on.
And he said unto them, that is that which the Most High hath said. Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath unto the Most High. Bake that which ye will bake today, seeth that ye will seeth, and that which remaineth over lay up for you to be kept until the morning.
So now he's saying, hey, all the congregation, y'all not the priests, go ahead and rest tomorrow. Don't go out in this harvest time and try to seek for a harvest. Don't go out and try to work on the Sabbath day. Rest, relax, and go and get busy in the worship of the Most High. Take this extra that you have and use it to worship the Most High. Come and give your sacrifices with this manna. All right? Don't go out, focus on the harvest, focus on the worship today. That's it. Don't focus on the harvest, focus on the worship. All right? This is that harvest time, but don't focus on that. It's about worship right now on this 7th day, just as it is in the Feast of Weeks. In the Feast of Weeks is a plentiful time. It's a time where the summer crops are growing or the winter crops are growing. They're going to grow on the Sabbath. And in the 6th covenant, in Moses' covenant, when we were harvesting those things and bringing those to the priest, we had to rest on that 7th day. I don't care if there was a big juicy watermelon and it's about to go bad. Nope, let it go. Rest on that Sabbath day, that 7th day. Don't harvest. Get busy in the worship of the Most High. And he's going to do the same thing for us in this 7th covenant. Even if we're not agrarian people, we don't have our own gardens, our own land, our own acres to go and grow crops. He's going to give us the bountiful blessings if we keep this Feast of Weeks. No matter what that is, whether that's spiritual or physical. And with those physical blessings, don't get caught up. Don't get so caught up in those physical blessings on that 7th day that you forget to go and get in the spirit. That you forget to go into the rest of the Most High, to his resting place, and give him his worship by standing in the lots. Don't neglect that. Don't neglect that like we're going to see the children of Israel did today or back in the day. Let's read on.
Verse 24. And they laid it up till the morning, and Moses bathed, and it did not stink, neither was there any worm therein.
All right, so now on this day, they're permitted to lay it up until the next day, and the Most High kept it. Make sure it was preserved, and it did not rot, it did not stink. Let's read on.
Verse 25. And Moses said, eat that today. Today is a Sabbath unto the Most High. Today ye shall not find it in the field.
So he said, don't go out in the field. The Most High is not going to bring it down. He wants you to be prepared on the 6th day for the worship of the 7th day. He doesn't want you distracted with trying to harvest. Just like how he wants us to be in this Feast of Weeks. Don't get distracted with the harvest on the 7th day. Get busy with the worship on that 7th day. Let's read on.
Verse 26. 6 days ye shall gather it, but on the 7th day, which is the Sabbath, in it there shall be none. And it came to pass that there went out some of the people on the 7th day for to gather, and they found none.
All right, now, unfortunately, throughout all the blessings of the Most High, seeing how faithful he was, the children of Israel were not faithful to him. It's always like somebody who got trust issues in a relationship. This is a good person, a great person. He's going to do you right all the time, but you still, let me see your phone. What you got going on? I don't trust you. I don't know if I believe what you're saying right now. You got no reason to. I got trust issues. I don't know if I trust you right now. He didn't do nothing against you, but you just always are going against what the Most High is saying, against what that spouse or your partner is saying. Just as the children of Israel did. Did not trust in the Most High, did not trust that he was going to give them enough on the Sabbath, and that they should not go and collect on that Sabbath. Let's read on.
Verse 27. And it came to pass that there went out some of the people on the 7th day for to gather, and they found none. The Most High said unto Moses, how long refuse ye to keep my commandments and my laws?
So now they refuse to keep the commandment. and the law of keeping that Sabbath. The commandment of the Sabbath and the sacrifice of the Sabbath. They refused to give the sacrifices and start getting busy and distracted and trying to physically harvest that bread. Instead of trusting in the Spirit of the Most High that would preserve that bread for 2 days, they didn't trust that. They said, this ain't about to go bad. I need to get ready and plan out the harvest on the Sabbath. Absolutely not. In that time of harvest, trust in the Most High. Keep his Sabbath, and he will bless you more than you can bless your own self. Trust in the Most High and keep that Sabbath. Abstain from your own work and get busy in the work of the Most High. Read on.
Verse 29. See that the Most High hath given you the Sabbath. Therefore he giveth you on the 6th day the bread of 2 days. Abide ye every man in his place. Let no man go out of his place on the 7th day. So the people rested on the 7th day.
All right, so now Moses once again saying, you hard-headed people, remember, the Most High gave you 2 days worth to use it on the Sabbath. Keep the Sabbath. I don't know how many times I got to say it. It's written on these tables of stone right here. How many times do we have to go through this? Keep the Sabbath. Hearing time or in harvest, keep the Sabbath. When there's times of plenteousness and abundance, keep the Sabbath. Even in times of lowliness, when you got nothing to do, keep the Sabbath. Keep the Sabbath no matter what time or season you are in, especially during this Feast of Weeks. Keep the Sabbath. Now for Portia Mar, you get Mark chapter 3. And we'll start in the first verse. Mark chapter 3, verse 1. Now, in Moses' covenant, they were harvesting physically. They were using that manna for both personal and the worship of the Most High. They were harvesting, trying to do it for personal reasons, personal gain. They could not do that on the Sabbath. They could not get distracted with their own works and their own labors on the Sabbath. Now, what about this covenant? Let's get Mark chapter 3, verse 1.
And he entered again into the synagogue, and there was a man there which had a withered hand. And they watched him, whether he would heal him on the Sabbath day, that they might accuse him.
All right, so it's a Sabbath day. A man comes in with a withered hand. The Messiah, given the power of the Most High, a great abundance of the Holy Spirit, sees this man, and it's a Sabbath. The Pharisees know that he has the ability to heal through the Spirit. And what do they say? Are you going to do some work on the Sabbath, Messiah? Let's see what you're going to do. You want to heal this man, or are you not going to? You're going to keep the Sabbath, or you're going to break the Sabbath. So they thought. Read on.
Verse 3. And he saith unto the man which had the withered hand, Stand forth. And he said unto them, It is lawful to do good on the Sabbath days, or is it evil? To save a life or to kill? But they held their peace.
Now he put the Pharisees in checkmate. Is it evil to do good on the Sabbath? Am I breaking the Sabbath by doing righteousness or by harvesting the fruits of the Spirit in this Feast of Weeks? Is that off to do on the Sabbath? Yeah, it's off to harvest the physical crops for your own personal gain. But if I'm harvesting the fruits of the Spirit, which all go directly to the Most High, is that wrong? Is that off? They couldn't say anything. They were in checkmate. I don't know. If I do this, I'm condemning the Sabbath. If I say yes, I'm condemning the Sabbath. If I say no, then I'm saying it's bad to do good. I don't know what to say. How the Messiah answered them. Read on.
Verse 5. And when he had looked around about on them with anger, being grieved for the hardness of their hearts, he said unto the man, Stretch forth thine hand. And he stretched it out, and his hand was restored whole as the other.
This was the answer. No, it's not a trespass to do good or to harvest in the Spirit on the Sabbath. The Most High wants you to abstain from the physical work, the physical labors, because the Most High doesn't care about the physical. That's your own personal stuff. But the Spirit is all tied and included in with the worship of the Most High. If you're harvesting in the Spirit for the worship of the Most High, that's all lawful to do in the Sabbath. And as Priest Azaria went through earlier, throughout this feast, the fruits of the Spirit, this is what we're truly offering in this new covenant to the Most High during this Feast of Weeks. We're trying to harvest the spiritual fruits. We're trying to operate and get that virtue, get that the works of the Most High, and do that, and give that and offer that to Him. It goes beyond just the physical means of worship, the bread and the wine, the oil. There's bread and meat in heaven that we need to collect, and we need to offer that to the Most High throughout this feast. We cannot neglect one or the other, but we need to abstain from the physical on the Sabbath. But the spiritual is good 24/7. We need to always, even on the Sabbath days, be collecting, getting that virtue, doing good and righteous things on the Sabbath, and tie that in with the worship of the Most High. So don't harvest the physical means. The Most High is telling us, reject, denounce the physical on the Sabbath, and start getting busy and feasting in righteousness in spirit on that seventh day. It's not as simple as don't cook, don't light a fire, don't buy, don't sell. It's not as simple as that. It all has to do with the worship of the Most High. And once you understand that the Sabbath, that the rest of the Most High means he's waiting in his tabernacle for us to come and rest with him and worship him, then all the other aspects, all the other statutes begin to make sense. So with that, we're going to go ahead and shut down and close the class. We're going to open up the floor for anybody who has any questions. We're going to start out first in the audience. If anybody in the audience has any questions, now's the time to go and pose them. I know this is sometimes a touchy subject regarding the Sabbath. I know there's still people online who are talking about, nah, you off. Talking about lighting a fire on the Sabbath? Nah, you off. If you have any questions, go ahead and pose them now. And definitely those online, go ahead and bring forth your questions. I will give everybody a moment to collect their thoughts. All right, any questions?
There's a question regarding work on the Sabbath. If you can read Ecclesiasticus 38, Sirach 38, verse 28. Pertaining to the cooking, the fire, the prohibition, what type of fiery work is prohibited?
So it's Sirach chapter 38, verse 28.
Khan.
Got it. All right.
The smith also sitting by the anvil, and considering the iron work, the vapor of the fire wasteth his flesh, and he fighteth the heat of the furnace. The noise of the hammer and the anvils is ever in his ears, and his eyes look still upon the pattern of the thing that he maketh. He setteth his mind to finish his work, and watches to polish it perfectly.
Look at what Sirach is saying about this smith, this man who is an ironsmith, a metalsmith, who is working with the anvil, who has to smelt the iron, light a fire and get this to thousands of degrees to make this metal bendable. His mind is fixed and focused on the perfection of that, whatever he's making, whether it be a sword or tool. He's just looking at how perfect it can be. He forgot all about the Sabbath. He forgot all about the fire of the Most High. He forgot all about that righteous fire and is worried about his own fire and building and perfecting that material. You can actually read on. Cesaria.
Verse 29. So doth the potter sitting at his work, and turning the wheel about his feet, who is always carefully set at his work, maketh all his work by number. He fashioneth the clay with his arm, it boweth down his strength before his feet. He applieth himself to lead it over, and he is diligent to make clean the furnace.
All right, so these people are just so focused on their own work and not the work of the Most High. This is that fire that he was telling us not to have. All these people that are involved with fire in their own work, which is used in majority of the work that we do, whether we know it or not, you're getting consumed and thinking about nothing but your work. Whether you're a potter, a smith, or a farmer, or anybody, you are focused and fixated on your work rather than that fire of the Most High. Let's drop that and let's get or you can go and get that, Shamar. 2 Chronicles chapter 7 and verse 1. We see that example of fire being used in wickedness, where their mind is fixed on their own fire, their own works. Let's look at the fire of the seventh day, the fire of the Sabbath. So Solomon at this point in 2 Chronicles 7 is at the feast a holy convocation, a Sabbath. And look what he was focused on.
Verse 1. Now when Solomon had made the end of praying.
Now this is where we were early at the start of the class. Solomon was praying and saying, Most High, come into your rest. And after he made that prayer, what happened? Read on.
The fire came down from heaven.
Fire came down from heaven. This wasn't a blacksmith trying to do some metallurgy. This was fire from heaven. To do what?
And consumed the burnt offering and the sacrifices. And the glory of the Most High filled the house.
It burnt up the sacrifices, and the glory of the Most High was in there. If this glory was there, I know everybody was fixated. Everybody was looking at the altar like, wow, with the big bulging bug eyes, like, wow, did this really just happen? Fire just came down from heaven, and there's the smoke filling the house, and we feel the glory of the Most High. Wow, I'm fixated. I'm hooked on this Sabbath day, on the worship of the Most High. I left my blacksmithing at home. I'm not focused on that. I'm focused right now on this fire that came down from heaven on that Sabbath day. All right, so definitely that was right on point. Good scripture to add in, talking about how fire causes people to get fixated on their own work in this case. We have another question in the back.
Yes, I just want to say beautiful class. And could you elaborate on the 50th day? Do you rest?
On the 50th day of the feast?
Yes.
Right on point, exactly. Most likely, we're going to do a class on the Pentecost, the 50th day. But definitely, it is a Sabbath, a holy convocation. Now, the 50th day is really the first day of the week, so-called Sunday. The Most High said this particularly is a Sabbath. This is a holy convocation, a day of rest. So you actually have two Sabbaths back to back. You have that seventh day Sabbath, that last seventh Sabbath of that Feast of Weeks, where you rest and you get busy in the sacrifices. Then that first day comes along, that 50th day, and you rest, you abstain from your own works, and get busy in the worship of the Most High. So definitely that 50th day and that first day, which is also a so-called Sunday, first day of the week, you rest and abstain from your own works and treat that just like a Sabbath, because it is a Sabbath.
If we can harvest virtue, can we use that virtue during the Feast of Weeks?
Definitely. That's what it's about. That Feast of Weeks is not just about the people harvesting and gathering and just dump that in the priest's hands and leave it. Everybody gathered that fruit, came together and worshiped the Most High, and everybody took part. Everybody ate of it and was brought to the fill. So on that Feast of Weeks, they brought their first fruits. The priest prepared a sacrifice, and everybody took part and ate of that. Ate of what everybody brought. So it's the same thing with that spiritual fruit, that spiritual virtue that you gather. You can definitely use it on the Feast of Weeks, just like in Moses' covenant we use the first fruits in that Feast of Weeks. Good question. Definitely use that virtue throughout that feast. But you need to gather it first. So go ahead and gather that, little young man. Go ahead and gather that virtue. Apply those fruits of the Spirit, and then you can start to use them.
Another question was posed that during these feasts of 7 weeks, there are those who have mandates to work on the Sabbath, that the Most High proclaimed that we should not work. What is the antidote? What is the solution if one must work on the Sabbath because they would lose their job if they didn't?
Well, obviously, we should be doing all that we can do that's in our power to make sure we're keeping the Sabbaths. Now, once again, we know that we're growing up in spiritual Egypt and Sodom. Well, they don't care about your covenant. They don't care about your agreements. They're going to make you work on the Sabbath. They might say, we're going to fire you. You're going to lose your family. You're going to lose your house. You're going to lose all this because you don't have any money to sustain. Now, if you do and you go and work on the Sabbath, you have a get out of jail free card, so to speak. That's called the seventh covenant. That's called the oblations, the sin and trespass offering. Now, remember, when we read in the what people call the Torah or in Exodus, it talks about anybody working on the Sabbath shall be put to death. Unfortunately, when we work on the Sabbath, we're worthy of death. We've done many things that are worthy of death. But love, or this love of the new covenant, covers many sins, covers many transgressions. This new covenant allows us to be forgiven for all the transgressions that we do. The Most High, knowing that we're in a fleshly state, he put us in this captivity. He knows some of us are going to have to work on the Sabbath. He knows it's going to happen. He's not just an unjust father who gave us these hard statutes and commandments to do, and we can't do them, and he's going to bring forth this swift, great judgment. It's all about minimizing the sins that are upon us, atoning for our transgressions, so we can be blameless in those latter days. We can be blameless at the time it's coming. So if we have to work on the Sabbath, if we have to do things on the Sabbath that we ought not to do, we have to get in the oblations, the sacrifices, give up a trespass offering, give up a sin offering, be forgiven, and sin no more. Seek to no longer break that Sabbath, but make sure that Satan, firstly, is not accusing you for breaking that Sabbath. Definitely, good question.
We broke down Deuteronomy 16 about the manna that came down from heaven. The prohibition, was it against the labor about gathering the manna on the seventh day, or was it the cooking of the manna on the seventh day? Because Numbers, the 11th chapter, says that they cooked the manna.
Mm-hmm.
They mixed and cooked it. Were they mixing and cooking the manna on the seventh day?
Good question. But as we broke down earlier, we saw that people could cook on the Sabbath. We showed clearly that cooking on the Sabbath was not a transgression. That was actually a requirement. They had to cook. They had to burn the sacrifices, and people end up eating the sacrifice. They cooked what they ate. They roasted it all with fire. So the prohibition was not against cooking that manna, making it into bread and baking it. It was about going out and harvesting and doing that work and that labor. The Most High told them to prepare their meat offering, prepare their sacrifices on that sixth day, and then start to cook them and use that throughout that sixth day and that seventh day. So they were not to go out and harvest again on that seventh day. They could definitely cook on that seventh day what they had gathered.
So the prohibition was against the laborious acts and works, not the actual cooking of the manna.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So it was against them going out and doing their own works, trying to fill their belly on that day when they were supposed to be worshiping the Most High with that manna that they got extra of on that sixth day.
How do you correlate that to today? Can someone go and shop on the Sabbath and fill up their grocery carts and all of that and then bring it home and cook it on the Sabbath?
No, they shouldn't. They shouldn't be going out on that seventh day trying to do the grocery shopping. They should have just a little bit of forethought and go at least on the sixth day, or go throughout the week and have enough for the seventh day. Now, if you're at home and you already have all the goods in your storehouse and you want to cook on that Sabbath, by all means, go ahead. That is in no wise a trespass. But it is wrong to go out and start gathering and harvesting or going to the store and buying and selling on that Sabbath, especially if it's for your own personal goods. Once again, we showed that financial transactions in and of themselves were not wrong on the Sabbath if you were doing it for the worship of the Most High. But doing financial transactions for your own personal needs, for your own personal wants and desires, was wrong, because now you're focusing on yourself rather than focusing on the worship of the Most High.
So the buying and selling on the Sabbath to get food to cook is a prohibition. Absolutely. Okay. And so the scriptures speak about the day of preparation, the sixth day. Mm-hmm. What exactly is that?
So on that sixth day, just as the children of Israel did with the manna, and they harvested their extra on that sixth day, you had to start preparing for the Sabbath the day before. The Most High didn't just want us being, whatever we were, and then come to the feast and think we were straight. There were many times the Most High told us to start preparing. For example, when the Most High said he was literally going to come down and visit the children of Israel when they're coming down Sinai. He said, on this, I'm going to come in 3 days. On this first day, start separating yourselves. Start preparing. Start getting yourselves right. On that second day, make sure you're clean. Don't go into your wives. Don't do this. Don't do whatever will make you unclean, because you need to be prepared on that third day. So be prepared for that day. And that happened many times throughout scriptures. Even with the Passover, the Messiah had to be prepared the day before. for him to be that Passover sacrifice. You had to prepare these things before so you weren't doing labor and work trying to build up your storehouse on that seventh day, because that was a day where you were supposed to just be worshiping the Most High. He wanted full 24 lots of worship to the Most High. He didn't want you spending 1 or 2 lots trying to do your own stuff. He wanted you being ready that day before so that you missed no time in worshiping the Most High. Definitely.
So the fire that was spoken about of kindling not a fire, is that the same as in what Jesus the Sirach was praying in Ecclesiasticus 51:4, where he says, in the midst of the fire which I kindle not? Is that the same kindling a fire?
You said
Sirach or Ecclesiasticus 51:4.
51:4. All right, you want to read that? You go get that, Shamar. Or whoever got it first. Yeah, Sirach chapter 51, verse 4.
Hold on. From the choking of the fire on every side, and from the midst of the fire which I kindled not.
So your question is well, what he's saying is that there are these fires, so to speak, metaphorical fires of burning around him, sin and accusations. He didn't start those, but yet people around him who were trying to accuse him and bring forth accusations against him. He's praying, as you see earlier. We can actually jump up to the second verse and read that.
For thou art my defender and helper, and hast preserved my body from destruction, and from the snare of the slanderous tongue, and from the lips that forge lies, and has been mine helper against mine adversary.
So the adversary is somebody who uses his tongue or his slanderous lies to bring forth accusations against him. And he's saying this burning is like sin that's around him. He didn't do it. He's not messing up. He's not transgressing so much that all these accusations are around him, but sin and Satan is bringing it upon him. And he's saying, I pray to the Most High to be my defender. Defend me against this fire, this sin that I'm not engaging in. I'm not asking for this sin. Defend me, Abba, from it, and protect me from this choking fire that's on all sides. And that's where we are today. There's sin all around us. This is the burning of sin all around us. And that fire is coming to consume and destroy us all. But just as Sirach was, we need to ask and pray the same thing. Defend us from this sin, the accusations of the adversary. So it's not quite the same, because he's saying I'm trying to live blameless, but Satan is still trying to accuse me. But I get the connection. It is similar in a sense that we shouldn't be engaging in sin, just like we shouldn't be engaging in the breaking of the Sabbath. Definitely.
All right, one more question is in the congregation.
What time does the Sabbath start, and what time should we stop working?
Good question. Now, many people think it's still the Sabbath. And we kind of do this class at this time because it's more convenient for us being in this land of the captivity. But really, the Sabbath starts on the evening of the 6th day, and then the 6th day going to the 7th, according to the time in Jerusalem, not according to our local time. So if I'm in Atlanta, my so-called Friday, my so-called 6th day ends around 6 p.m. on so-called Friday. But somebody in Jerusalem, their 6th day is going to end at a different time. It's going to end according to our time at 11. 11 a.m. is actually going to be the end of a day for us. And we count all our days according to Jerusalem time. So really the Sabbath starts, if you're in the Eastern Standard Time Zone, then it's going to be actually Friday, so-called Friday, at 11 a.m. is going to be the start of the next day, the start of the Sabbath as well. So Sabbath is technically over. It ended at 11. But since we know this as our day of rest, our Sabbath day, and it's hard to kind of do times according to another time zone, we end up doing the class and stuff here. But rest assured, we did the rest of the Most High. We did the sacrifice of the Most High according to that time in Jerusalem. So the Sabbath really starts at 11 and ends at 11 according to our time zone, and you adjust according to your own time zone. It's done according to the rising and setting of the sun at the equinox in Jerusalem and not your own personal time zone. All right.
One posed the question online, pleasure. Engaging in pleasure on the Shabbat, can one engage in intimacy and the pleasure that comes with sleep on the Shabbat?
Good question. Very good question. And we'll try to keep it PG, for the audience here. But if one of you would grab Isaiah chapter 51. Let's get Isaiah chapter 51. Get the 13th verse.
And forgettest the Most High thy Maker, that hath stretched forth the heavens, and laid the foundations of the earth.
My bad. Get Isaiah chapter 58, verse 13. Isaiah chapter 58, verse 13.
If thou turn away thy foot from the Sabbath, from doing thy pleasure on my holy day.
So he's saying we have to turn away from doing our own pleasures on the Sabbath day. Now that's not to say, the Sabbath needs to be a grievous day of no fun, no entertainment or anything like that. But it needs to be a day where you abstain from the things that give you your own satisfaction. Do the things that give you pleasure in the Most High and not in your own personal or even physical desires. Go ahead and finish that up. And if you'll grab Porter Shamar, Leviticus chapter 15, and you start at verse 16. Let's go and go through, finish that up, Isaiah 58 and 13.
And call the Sabbath a delight, holy of the Most High, honorable, and shall honor him, not doing thine own ways, nor finding thine own pleasure, nor speaking thine own words.
So don't do your own ways. Don't do your own thing. Now, engaging in intimacy with your spouse is not a transgression, but to do that on the Sabbath, that's not honoring the Most High. That's not giving the Most High his worship. That's you doing your own pleasures and doing the things that you want to do. Most High didn't say that's what the Sabbath day is for. You got all other 6 days of the week to do that. On this one day, that's the day you shut that down, stop doing your own pleasures, and go and get busy in the worship of the Most High. Now, on another note,
before you read Leviticus, if you'll read Wisdom of Solomon 7 verse 2 really quick.
Okay. So Wisdom of Solomon
7 verse 2. Solomon speaks about his conception.
And in my mother's womb was fashioned to be flesh in the time of 10 months, being compacted in blood, the seed of man, and the pleasure that came with sleep.
And the pleasure that came with sleep. Solomon was conceived and grew in that pleasurable action. That is clearly telling you this is your own pleasure. It's your own pleasure to engage in that action that brings forth the conception of seed. And in that pleasure, although it's fun and it's enjoyable, there are downsides to it as well from a spiritual perspective. It's a good scripture to add in that see that this is your own pleasure that you're doing on the Sabbath. Now, when you're engaging in that pleasure, it in itself is not a trespass, but it makes you unfit for the worship. And this is how. Leviticus chapter 15, verse 16.
And if any man's seed of copulation go out from him.
All right, so once again, we're trying to be PG, but basically when a man and a woman engage in intimacy, and, he completes, then, read on.
Then he shall wash all his flesh in water and be unclean until evening.
He is now unclean. He is unfit for the worship. Now, this unclean, don't get it twisted, doesn't mean you're just a dirty person. This doesn't mean you're just filthy and you're nasty. It's just simply saying the Most High is saying, I don't want you to come and touch my holy things at this moment. Same thing with anybody else in any form of uncleanness. You get a cut and you're bleeding, you're unclean. Doesn't mean you're a filthy person. It just means you're unfit to come and worship at that present moment. So why on the Sabbath will we willingly go and make ourselves unfit to do the purpose of the Sabbath? Now, things happen. You become unclean for whatever reason, things that you cannot always control. But this is one thing you typically can. And to do that on the Sabbath is a way of profaning the Sabbath, so to speak. We should not be doing this. We should not be doing our own pleasures. And we should not be seeking to make ourselves unclean on that seventh day. So definitely a good question for the brother that asked that.
If I can get one of your readers to read Judith, the 8th chapter, 6th verse. For those who still believe that intimacy and copulation is decent, it's good to do on the Shabbat day, the Most High had a prohibition not only against intimacy, but anything that was self-serving, anything that you thought to do. Judith 8, verse 6.
Go ahead.
And she fasted all the days of her widowhood, save the eves of the Sabbaths, and the eves of the new moons, or new months, and the new months, and the feast and solemn days of the house of Israel. She was also of a goodly countenance, very beautiful to behold.
So the Most High had a prohibition against you doing your own fast on the Sabbath. You want to do a food fast, water fast. The Father said you got 6 days to do that. But on the Sabbath day, you come and worship the Heavenly Father. So if he didn't want you fasting, you think he wanted you laying back, engaging in your own, rumbling in the bed with your spouse? You got it, priest.
Definitely. You couldn't even fast on this day. Showing you once again, you cook on that day. You're fasting if you say, I'm abstaining from cooking and I'm only eating celery sticks all day. That's a form of a fast. Judith, a righteous sister of Israel, could not even fast on the Sabbath days and on the new months. She could not fast on these high holy days, these holy convocations. There was only one specific one where you did fast, the Day of Atonement. And that was expressly written out. But the Sabbath, the seventh day, the Feast of Weeks, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, those Sabbaths, you celebrated. You feasted. You filled your belly up with the sacrifices of the Most High. You got busy in his labors and his works. So once again, when we talk about pleasure and abstaining from it, we're talking about your own pleasures. The Sabbath is not a day where you're off work and you kick your feet up and play video games. It's not the day where you go and you catch up on your shows. You're doing your own pleasures. Cut all that out, convene with the priest, and find the pleasures in the ways and the rest of the Most High.
And to finish on that is pseudo-spirituality that I find that Israel falls into quite often, fasting on the Sabbath. There are those who wait specifically for the Sabbath and say, I'm going to fast on it, going about establishing their own righteousness and not submitting themselves to the righteousness of the Most High. So great point, excellent class, showing you that you must set aside your own inclinations and submit and yield to the will and the ways of the Heavenly Father. All praises.
Exactly. All praise to the Most High. And once again, we've been taught by our adversaries. We've been taught by those who don't know our culture and are converts to our own culture. Why don't we learn from the convert, from the student, rather than going to the master himself, the Most High, and get the Holy Spirit to teach us what to do on the Sabbath? We learn, or we lose the meaning of the Sabbath and some of these statutes regarding the Sabbath because we don't know the true purpose of the Sabbath. If you think the Sabbath is a day of catching up on your rest and chilling, you'll always be wrong in these statutes. You'll do what the Jewish people do and set up barriers around your house and say, if you take 31 steps, you off. You can take 30 steps, but if you do 31, you're exerting yourself too much. You're going off. That's not what the Sabbath is about. I don't care if you have to walk 100 miles. If you're walking to the worship of the Most High, you're doing the Sabbath. So the Sabbath is all about the worship of the Most High, giving him his sacrifice in due season, and we're doing that for all the Sabbaths throughout this Feast of Weeks, as we're commanded. The first Sabbath is holy and the last one is holy. But we cannot neglect all the Sabbaths in between. We have to give him his tithes, his offerings, his worship, his sacrifices continually. So definitely join us, especially as we start getting closer to that 50th day, that Holy Convocation. Most I willing, the registration will be out soon for all those who are planning to come to the feast and gather with us on that Sabbath to give the worship to the Most High. Definitely stay tuned for all that and everything that's coming out of the House of Wisdom. Make sure to support with your tithes and free will offerings at Shekinah.com/tithes or Shekinah.com/donate. Don't neglect the priesthood. Definitely go and apply if you have the zeal, the spirit to be in the priesthood at Shekinah.com/priest application. Make sure you are doing your diligence in whatever part you play. Everybody has a part to play in the worship of the Most High. Whether you are the king and ruler of the entire body or just one person being a partaker in the body, everybody has their role to play, and we all need to fulfill it to be those people in line with the Most High. So once again, peace and blessings be multiplied amongst all the saints. Let's worship the Most High throughout the rest of these Sabbaths. Shalom.
He who hath ears to hear, listen carefully as we speak virtue, reaching the world through the efforts of the priests, repairers of the breach, restorers of the paths, rebuilding the tents of David. Our home is found at last at the tabernacle of congregation, where we baptize and anoint our nation, performing oblations upon the brazen altar, walking in the ways of the appointed Savior with poise, escaping the noise from Satan and his poisonous nature. Without fail he accuses the brethren, using his weapons of collusion, and then sin comes upon us. And we deserve it, to be honest. We were cursed, cause we honored and were worshipping the gods of this world and was living lawless. At first to the written law, without purpose and little knowledge, serving our wicked conscience. Thus, righteous judgment was handed down from the courts of the Most High. A sobering moment, but let's be holy and pure while we endure and ensure life comes forth. Let us hold tight, secure in our roles as we strive, adorned with our robes white and clean. It might seem like the loneliest road, but we stride in hope as the Most High reveals his ideals. And so we exercise patience as well as love, dwelling safe in the seventh covenant, graciously set the sustenance. Let us exemplify faith through hell and suffering, praying to quell the punishment, waiting on heaven's government to be established, as it was in the Garden of Eden, when Abba had breathed life into creation, and our forefather received the living word. No more are we called prisoners, we live and learn, and study to be approved as the sons of Yahweh, who were lovingly given rules to better build and preserve truth. The bricks surrounding the kingdom are the 7 pillars of virtue. This is a house of wisdom. Shalom.